Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed. I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I am happy to be here with you again. It is September 4th, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I am here with you live to hear what you have to say about the issues that are affecting us all. I appreciate each and every one of you that have joined us and will join us throughout this entire conversation. We want to hear what you have to say about the issues that are affecting us all. I'm looking forward to this because, oh my God, where is America going at this moment? It's a scary thought. I mean, it's incredibly terrifying to hear what Joe Biden has said about America, what he has said about Americans, and how this is going to impact the rest of the world. I just don't have words for this. And, well, actually, I do, and I will be sharing those thoughts with all of you as we go through this conversation about what's happening and what you have to say about everything that's happening. For those that this is the first time you are seeing the channel, we welcome you. We thank you for being part of our audience. We want you to know that we listen to you. We're looking forward to hearing your chats, your tweets, and your phone calls to 607-242-1582, as you'll see it floating above. And we want to hear all the things that you guys want to talk about, what your thoughts are about what's happening in America and the rest of the world, and how it's going to affect everyone. Please don't hesitate to call in at any time to tell us what you think and what you want to talk about. This is a conversation with you and from anywhere in the world, because just like with, we believe in the First Amendment. We believe everyone has a right to free speech. Even if you're not an American, we believe you are valuable as an individual, not a category. And so we want to hear what you have to say, even if you disagree with me, even if you have an entirely different point of view. I want to hear it. We all want to hear what you have to say because you matter. Let me start off today with something. I want to start in talking about a couple of issues, starting medical. I want to get into some international issues, and then I want to talk about Joe Biden's speech, which essentially feels like and seems to be a Reichstag speech, a speech from Germany in 1939. This is something that is divisive and has destroyed the trust of many Americans in our government and therefore destabilized the world. And I think the impact, we haven't even seen the beginning of that, all to get some votes. You may disagree. I want to hear what you have to say about that. But we're going to save that a little bit later in the show when more people are able to join in. We know that everyone comes in a little bit after we start off. So let me start off first with something I think a lot of people may not be aware of. Did you know that there was an announcement September 3rd that has just come out? It's been published by Science Alert, that if you have type A blood, you may be at a higher risk for stroke and earlier strokes than most other Americans. This is new data. There's a study that's come out. There's still much more information to be taken on this. This is not medical advice, but just information that has been published based on studies that have been done so far. And it does seem that some individuals out of, I think the study was about 3,000 people, and they found that the additional risk of a stroke in people with type A blood is small. So there isn't need for extra scares or vigilance or screening at the moment, but they are continuing at the University of Maryland. They're continuing to look into this. I think it's important for you to know. You may not have noticed that. I want to cover something really old as well that I know a lot of people may be considering a matter of importance, and that is that they're able to make synthetic humans. I mean, when you have an embryo, an artificial embryo with a brain and a heart, how much different is that than growing a human being? This isn't a cloned individual, which is something that's unethical, but this is an artificial human being. I mean, we are on the edge of this. This is reported by Neuroscience News, and this came out on August 27th. And I don't think a lot of people, there's so much going on in the world right now. I don't think a lot of people have been paying attention to this. But this is like science fiction 101. We are on the verge of being able to create people. It's like something out of Blade Runner, where we're able to make what they called in that movie skin jobs, artificial people, kind of like Rutger Hauer's character in that movie, possibly even Harrison Ford's character, Decker, in that movie. And I am very interested in what people think about it. I believe it's unethical. I think it's incredibly unethical. And I will ask the question, is it unethical? Is it unethical to create humans outside the womb? It's an interesting question. I don't know if a lot of people ask that. But again, that's a question we need to start having. Are clones unethical? If clones are unethical, is it also unethical to be able to create a completely artificial human being grown from stem cells with nothing to do with human beings, human interaction, fertilization of eggs? These are completely science-created humans. It's human beings playing God. And who knows what the consequences of that may be? Again, this isn't something in sci-fi anymore. This is no longer a question of make-believe and imagination. We are on that verge. We make clones now. And we can, as we are seeing, based on the information from the University of Cambridge, we're about to be able to make human beings with brains, with hearts, that have nothing to do with the natural human process of procreation. I think it's terrifying to me. Terrifying. I do see we have Dal has joined us and he says, afternoon pop quiz. Good, I forgot my study guide. You're funny, Dal. You're funny. And Mike Bowie says, absolutely. He thinks it's unethical. I think it's unethical. But I wanted to start off with a couple things there in the science, because in the medical sciences, because no one really pays attention to it. I mean, we see it in our science fiction movies. We think of it in movies like Blade Runner and maybe Star Wars, but we haven't really ever had that discussion. And I think we need to, because science is moving ahead. And unless we have this conversation, we are going to create a Frankenstein's monster somewhere in the world. And that could be dangerous. I mean, we have no idea. One of my great fears, not only are these individuals that may not think the way that everyone else thinks, these are people that, who knows what's going on with the genetic DNA that they're creating in some scientist's lab. Not to say that they're mad scientists, but who knows? Yeah, it's the reality of altered carbon. So I wanted to bring that up because it's something that no one's talking about. No one in the media is talking about it. No one on YouTube or any political commentary has brought it up. It's something to keep in the back of your mind. I know we're going to get to everything else in a little bit, but I wanted to start there because you deserve to actually consider that question. Whether you're in the United Kingdom, Canada, Mexico, you're in Uruguay, Peru, India, you have to think about this. And I'm sure people in China are trying to do it as we speak. I mean, imagine soldiers just made in vats, literally what we see in science fiction, just vat-grown soldiers. And imagine them just throwing these non-humans that may actually be human out to fight wars. It's a terrifying thought. But let me go forward. And again, this is just something for you to think about. But I also want to make sure people are aware about the latest news about the monkeypox. We've been told be afraid of the monkeypox. The monkeypox is dangerous. Well, the answer is it is dangerous. It seems, according to CNN, it's something that's been affecting Black and Hispanics more than anyone else. But at the same time, it's affecting those individuals who happen to be bi or gay, and this is the thing that really got me. The monkeypox vaccines won't protect people right away because it takes 2 doses, not just 1. There's also another statement here. And the virus is spread through close contact and can affect anyone. But cases in this outbreak, this recent outbreak, have been mostly among gay, bisexual, and other men who have sex with men, and no one's been hit harder than those who identify in the Black or Latino community. That's mostly because throughout the Black and Hispanic communities, gays, LGBTQAI++, whatever in the alphabet, they're not very well accepted for the most part. The cultures, Black and Hispanic cultures, are very conservative. Even though Blacks and Hispanics, we're told, vote Democrat on a regular basis, and they do, the fact is the community culture is very conservative. And so we see a lot of bisexual and gay men keeping it, as they like to say, on the down low. So they have to be very careful right now. And really, again, we've been saying it, the best answer to deal with the monkeypox is do not have random, unprotected sex with individuals, look over their bodies, and make better choices. That's just the ultimate truth. By the way, does anyone know when they say, and other men who have sex with men, what does that mean? I mean, really, what the hell does that mean? If you're a man who's having sex with a man, wouldn't that make you gay or bisexual? I don't know what other men have sex with men besides gay and bisexual men. I don't understand it. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those 64 different genders that I'm told exist, or sexual preferences. I don't even understand it anymore. It doesn't make sense to me. But whatever you want to identify yourself as, that's your choice. I don't care. Whatever you identify yourself as, please be aware, even though the monkeypox is decreasing, it's not a pandemic, it's not endemic. But most importantly, please remember, don't have random unprotected sex with anyone, and be choosy about the partners you're having, because that will stop this whole process. At least that's what we think. Let me go back to some of the comments here. So Dow says that allows for mental imprint. The question that people who don't know anything about Altered Carbon, it's a television science fiction series that deals with the question of making clones with blank consciousness that people imprint their memories on. It's kind of like Westworld. There's a few science fiction that deal with that. It is very disturbing. And again, this is a question that we have to ask ourselves as a society, as a world. Do we want that? I don't know that we do. I don't think that's the best thing we can do. But it is something that is no longer in the realm of science fiction now that we are seeing this reported by the University of Cambridge. At the same time, I wanted to make you aware of what's going on with the monkeypox. Hello, Jan. Good to see and hear from you, and welcome to the program. I see Mike Bowie mentions there's a disturbing article in Epoch Times on fibrous blood clots being found in embalmers nationwide. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that means, Mike. That sounds kind of scary to me. Dow mentions that it's almost like a step towards the ideology of transcendentalists, that you can transcend your own human body. Maybe that's what they mean when they say other men who have sex with men. Don't know. Going on. So we want to deal with some medicine and let you have updates that you may not be aware about, things that are not trending right now because most of the media is too busy preparing to tell you about who you should be electing, who you should be voting for, and that you should be celebrating and having a great time. And the economy is fantastic. You just don't know about it. I'm going to get to that. The economy just slowed down. Employers are slowing down hiring people. But the economy is great. You just don't understand that. I'm going to get to that in a second. But BLM, you may or may not have heard about this. It hasn't been major news. BLM chapters are suing the organizations of the head organization, BLM. Their chapters are suing BLM because they have stolen their money. This is the allegation that there is fraud. Like when Patrice Cullors raised $66 million of your money in donations and grants from the United States government, and then turned around and bought herself 6 mansions with your money. And then she retired. She said, "Oh, thank you." This is Patrice Cullors, who has admitted that she is a communist, not a socialist, a communist, that she believes in socialism around the world, and BLM was created to introduce socialism and communism to Black and Hispanic and minority communities. That's her words. That's what she originally said as she got attention back in 2018, 2019. And BLM became a common term in America. That's what it was created for. And now there are, I believe, 26 different chapters that are looking at this money that just disappeared, that has not gone to help the Black community. And this is one of my biggest complaints about BLM. Maybe it's yours as well. BLM does nothing for Black communities. They go on TV, they raise a lot of money, they tell you that white people are evil and that the United States is systemically racist, and they do nothing to help the people they say they represent. They buy themselves mansions. People like Sean King buys a $40,000 dog as a pet with your money. Where's the help? Where are they going? Where are these developments from BLM going out and helping homeless people, helping Black people who are on drugs, helping Black people who are ex-cons reintegrate into society? Where are they? Where are they creating jobs and businesses? This is what they demand of the United States government. This is what they insist we have to do in America, but they're not doing it. They're just taking the money, and the money is going away. Like 26 different chapters have said, there's $10 million from charitable donations that are just being wasted. These people, BLM, their leadership, are having a heyday with your money, and you get nothing for it. Isn't that something that we should talk more about? Why isn't the major news media, the New York Times, why isn't the Huffington Post, why aren't we seeing this on BET News? Where is this conversation? Why can't we say, hey, BLM, why are you buying mansions? Why are these so-called Black leaders, and so-called because Sean King, by the way, isn't Black, he's white. And these individuals, they're going out and they're buying themselves dogs and mansions with your money and grants from the government. What's going on? Why can't we bring this up? Because it's racist. Because if you say this, if you ask this question, if you bring this up and make it known across the nation that BLM is having money issues, to say it the nicest way that I can, then you're labeled a racist because, that's just, you're betraying the race. How dare you highlight the absolute theft of money from individuals like you because you believe in their goal. You believe in the propaganda that they have told you, the lies that they have spread, the critical race theory they're trying to teach our children in schools. You believe them. Meanwhile, they're getting rich. They're getting rich off of your money and the lie that they told you, and you don't dare question them because otherwise you're going to be labeled an ist and a phobe. See, that's one of the problems we're facing. It's kind of like the problem we're facing with Joe Biden right now, that no one wants to call him out for what he's doing and what he has done. Why we don't want to call out people like Maxine Waters. And when I say we, I mean the major news media. I mean people like the social and the internet and social media giants. People like Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, whoever's running Twitter right now, and YouTube, Susan Wojcicki. These individuals, they are tailoring the news to make sure that you only hear the things they want you to hear, that you only can get to the conclusion they want you to be on. It's kind of like what I saw at Broome County, a SUNY Broome, a college in the southern tier of New York, when they had and I did several videos on this, when they had programs about racial justice that was a railroad. There was only one conclusion you can make. There was only one decision, one action you could take, which was to accept that if you're white, you're evil, and if you're black, you're a victim, and that's it. And the government has to take care of you because you are incapable of taking care of yourself. That is the ultimate truth of BLM and the far left ideology. If you're a woman, if you're black, if you're Hispanic, you are incapable, you are inferior, and can't take care of yourself. That's why these groups and the government have to step in to micromanage your life because they don't believe you are equal. That's why they have to create equality, which is not equal. It's an unbalancing of the system. You have to get extra. It's why we see in Chicago and across this country, teachers are being told that if you're white, you will get fired. If you're black, you won't. Now, there's one extra component in here. If you're a black teacher and you're new and you don't know what you're doing, you're not good, and you're a white teacher that's experienced and is exceptional at your job, the white teacher will be fired, the black teacher will be kept, and children will be harmed because they will not get the best education possible because, well, you need someone you can identify with. You know what? My audience is mixed. Some people are black, some people are white, some people are Asian, some people are from outside of the United States. I see lots of people. We have hundreds. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. And we have videos with tens of thousands of people who have watched them. They connect fine. Just because I'm black doesn't mean you can't connect. Lord of the Rings. People, I'm going to go into entertainment for a second here. How many people? 60 million people around the world, actually more than that, have read The Lord of the Rings, are fans of The Lord of the Rings. The reason why we have seen it last since the 1960s until today to being misrepresented by Amazon is because you don't need to be represented to be able to have value or to see the value in entertainment, in politics, in commentary, in the news. That's not necessary. All you need to do is have quality. But you need that's why they have these programs, these inequality programs to unbalance the system, to lie to you and say, well, you can't be equal. You can't accept quality unless it comes from someone just like you. And you're just a category. So you have to have a category everywhere and in every stage of your life because you aren't good enough to just accept the world as it is and do the best that you can. That's what I believe. You may think I was wrong. And if you do, I'm perfectly happy to hear why you think that. Leave me a comment or call in to 607-242-1582. I see Mike Bowie says, it was never about BLM was never about black lives. It's just more race baiting. And it is. And we are seeing the proof. You know, we've seen it already. Patrice Cullors, a year ago, bought those houses and retired with all the money and all the benefits. We should have realized it then. When Bernie Sanders became a multimillionaire and bought 3 houses, We should have saw it there. When Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez decided to live in an apartment that cost $15,000 a month and bought herself a Tesla, but wouldn't pay off her student loans, when Cori Bush is paying $70,000, Representative Cori Bush is spending $70,000 to have private security while trying to tell the people of Minneapolis they don't need any police, they can't have a firearm, and by the way, Cori Bush is going to make money as a landlord, $100,000 a year, but all the other landlords are evil. This is the benefit we are seeing from these socialists who are making profits off of the lies they are telling you. They're becoming the 1%. Meanwhile, they're telling you, oh, no, it's your fault. It's terrifying. Dow mentions, and certainly if their belief in themselves and their ideology was the truth, they would not need the constant external validation to be vindicated in that belief. I say that all the time. If you actually believe the issues of BLM, of critical race theory, of intersectionality, of gender identity politics, then why do you need the government to enforce that? Why do you need social media to silence anyone that ever has a voice? And we see this from colleges. This is where it starts at. In Broome County, at SUNY Broome, when I decided to protest their racist program teaching students that white people are evil and black people are victims, when I said I cannot stand by that, and I think that is evil and wrong to teach people that it is racism, you know what they decided to do? As we reported, as we shown you the evidence on this program, they decided to try and silence me by getting the campus police to try and shut me down, to try and stop me from being able to make a protest, from having my voice heard. This is what we get from a higher institution that's supposed to welcome questions, to welcome challenges, that is supposed to embrace different ways of thinking. But in truth, it's like what Joe Biden did in Philadelphia. There is only one path. There is only one voice. There is only one way to think. And if you don't agree with that, if you don't push and agree with the approved messaging, well, then you're evil, you're the bad guy, you're the problem, and they're going to come after you. My God, wait until we get to talking about Joe Biden and the Reichstag moment that he had in Pennsylvania. It's coming up in the show. But I wanted to make sure that you're aware that this is going on in BLM. And let me go further. And I do see your comment, Z, and I'm going to come right back to it in just a moment. I thank you for being part of the audience. But I want to also mention there's not just problems here in the United States. We have been saying on this program for more than a year, you don't have to be worried about World War III. That's not the issue. We're not going to have a world war where China, Russia, and Iran are working together as one unified axis. Not like what we saw with Germany, Italy, and Japan. No. What you're going to see are 3 regional conflicts simultaneously. We've said that on this program for over a year. And we have told you that China and Iran are paying attention to how the United States is acting without any leadership, without any international policy, and that they are taking advantage of this. And look, now comes the news out of Bloomberg that China, Russia, and Iran are ganging up, that they are working together in coordination because the United States under the Biden-Harris administration has so little leadership, has so little respect, has so little fear that they are coordinating their actions together because they know Joe Biden can't handle it, that he can't keep up. And we know this because what happened in Afghanistan 1 year ago today. 1 year ago, Joe Biden came out and told you, the American people, that he abandoned 100 Americans in Afghanistan. as he gave ISIS, Al Qaeda, and the Taliban billions of dollars of weapons, of ammunition, and money. He created the first terrorist nation with the first terrorist army in the history of the world. That's what Joe Biden did. And then he told you, don't worry, the 100 Americans in that hell zone that he created, they were going to come home soon. He would get them back immediately. It was just 100 people, and he's going to get them as soon as he can. And we know today, 1 year later, as we have covered continuously every month since last year, we have covered this and we have asked every single member of Congress that we can. We have asked every Democrat at the state and local and federal level, including the White House, how many Americans are actually in Afghanistan. And every single time we have asked this question, including in FOIAs, the thing we get back is nobody knows. No one has an answer. Meanwhile, we saw month after month after month, the numbers have changed. More and more Americans are being found. Suddenly, surprisingly, there's Americans still in Afghanistan, hundreds, and we then found out thousands of Americans remain in Afghanistan against their will right this second because Joe Biden left them. He lied to you, and now he is hiding that lie, and he won't even address on the 1 year anniversary the greatest retreat, the greatest failure of not only the Biden-Harris administration, but of America, surpassing the failures in Vietnam when we left Saigon in 1972. And at least then, our politicians, our president, had the balls to at least face the American people and say they failed. Joe Biden won't even do that. He won't even admit that he failed. He won't even admit that he has left Americans to struggle against 3 terrorist organizations that he has funded and he has armed. That's so evil in my mind. And we still don't know the exact number. We know over 800 Americans have been brought back home and thousands still remain in Afghanistan. And just last week, the State Department told Americans in the Ukraine, some 20,000 Americans with children in the Ukraine, they told them last week, you're on your own. Figure a way to get out of the Ukraine. You figure it out. The Biden-Harris administration abandoned them too, just like he promised Lester Holt on NBC News in February of 2022. That's the legacy of Biden-Harris. That's the legacy of the progressive ideology. Oh, it's not advantageous for Democrats to win an election? Forget them. Don't talk about them. They're not Americans anymore. Ignore them. The only thing that's important is the next election, winning as many seats as possible, maintaining their power, and anyone who wants to bring up another subject, they're evil, they're misguided, and throw them under a bus. And if you think I'm wrong, we've shown you the data, but more importantly, don't believe me. Go to Antonio Delgado. Go to Josh Riley in the New York 19th District. Go to whatever Democrat is running for Congress throughout the United States. Ask each and every one of them. I don't care where they are. John Fetterman, I mentioned Josh Riley, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Anna Presley, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff. Ask them all, how many Americans are in Afghanistan? What is your plan to get those people back home? They're going to not answer you. You don't have to believe me. Ask them. If you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm just a Republican speaking, talking head, ask them yourself. Watch them ignore you. Watch them gloss over the subject. Watch them change the subject Watch them ignore you and not give you an answer because they don't care. It's not a subject that's going to get them votes, so they're not going to talk about it. That's the legacy of progressives and the Biden-Harris administration and the path they are leading America at this moment. Let me get to the comments. I wanted to get all that out, but let me go back to some of the comments here because I know there's a lot. So let's see. Z says, the only way to win is peaceful transition. There can be peace. Lady Karma will deal her cards on those who have ill will on others. That sounds like borderline treason. However, I feel the only way to solve this is peaceful transition. So Z, I thank you for your comment. Let me be clear. I have not said anything that was treasonous. It is not treasonous to highlight the failures of the American government. It is not treasonous. In fact, it is an expression and a purpose of the First Amendment. And for those in the news media, and I am an official member of the news media. Might be small. I'm still an official member of the news media, recognized by all parties. I am recognized by the news agencies. We are news media. And it is the purpose of the news media and the First Amendment to question our leaders, especially when they are doing things that make us question them, that do not have a benefit to the American people, to highlight the truth of the actions that they have done and the consequences that we have felt. Everything I have said about Afghanistan is absolutely true. There is no question about it. There is no question about the data. There is no question on the number of people that have come back home that we have been able to bring back, and what Joe Biden has said and what the State Department has said and what the Department of Defense have said month after month after month until January of 2022 when they stopped talking about Afghanistan. That's not treasonous. It's not treasonous to say that Joe Biden doesn't have an international policy. If you know what it is, and I'm not picking on you, I'm not. But I'm making sure we have this conversation honestly. Because you can't just say, well, Mike, you're a Republican. That's not an answer. What's the counter answer? Let me ask, and I ask this clearly. Z, what is the Biden-Harris international policy? What's their policy? We can tell you what the policy is of every other president. I can't tell you what the policy of the Biden-Harris administration is because they've never told us what it is, because it doesn't exist. It is a buckshot approach, slipshod. Let me ask you, what are they doing about the food crisis that is impending? What are they doing about the problems that are facing America at this time? They don't have answers. What are they doing to protect our southern border, which is a national security threat? What Joe Biden has tried to impart on America on Thursday is when, in his speech, his partisan political speech, he said, well, if you ask questions, if you speak about things that are unapproved, well, you're a traitor. You're un-American. I'm sorry. It is absolutely American to always question the government. And in 2016, when we saw the Democrats questioning America and our leadership, that was hailed as the perfect thing to say. And today, in 2022, because I'm raising these questions based on the evidence that I've been providing for a year, well, now I'm questionably a traitor? You know what? When I went through the Marine Corps and I put my life on the line for this nation, no one ever dared say, oh, that was traitorous. I don't think it's traitorous today to live by those same principles. You have your right, Z, to think anything that you want, but that's where I stand. Let me go on. And again, Z, if you think I'm wrong, if you think I've misrepresented anything you've said, if my argument is not solid to you, call in 607-242-8255. 1582. I will be happy to hear your questions. I will be happy to have that conversation. That's what this program is for. Little Dipper, hey, it's good to see you back with us, Little Dipper. She says, good afternoon. I'm not sure if Little Dipper is a he or she. Little Dipper says, good afternoon, and I'm glad to see you're with us. Mike Bowie mentions that Afghanistan and hundreds of January 6th protesters are still in prison. Yes, in January 6th, it is insane that we have over 500 people that remain in prison for trespassing, not for treason, not for not for insurrection. They've been charged with trespassing. It is a $30 fine with a three-day sentence. In fact, the Colbert Show, when they did exactly the same thing that the people in January 6th did, which is trespass in the halls of Congress, banging on doors, screaming at Republicans, threatening them for a comedy skit, but they did exactly the same thing. They got arrested. There are no charges against them. Gee, there's a two-tier system of justice. And you may say, and I agree, the people who broke the doors, some doors, the couple of dozen people, literally a couple of dozen people that broke doors or broke windows, absolutely charge them for destruction of property. Absolutely. Anyone who tried to have a physical altercation with the police, absolutely charge them appropriately. At the same time, the Capitol police officer that beat a woman to death with a baton as she laid on the ground unconscious, why isn't he getting the death penalty? We had another Capitol police officer that aimed and targeted and shot a woman after other Capitol police officers entered that same room with full body armor and M4s taking control of that room. Why isn't he being charged with murder? If we are looking at the system of justice, it must be equal and it must be transparent, and it isn't. Let me go on. Dow mentions that Lady Karma will be the least of people's problems as they are standing in their homes accused by neighbors of whatever under red flag policy and then carted away for lack of compliance. I'm about to talk about red flag laws and how they are being abused just as we predicted on this channel, and they are coming for you. I have the proof. We will go into it. Dow says the hard choices will have to be made. It takes a special kind of evil to impose trouble on a populace and then cry illegality to justify the tyranny and expect no resistance. Little Dipper says January 6 protesters are political prisoners. Same thing was done to the Canadian freedom protesters, such as Litch. And you are right, Little Dipper. That is exactly what we saw happen to the Canadian truckers, many of whom, as last that I am aware, they still have not. Everyone who donated to the truckers in Canada and many of the Canadian truckers, their bank accounts were frozen. And to my knowledge, they still do not have access to their money. There are some of them who still remain locked out of their money and being punished for daring to question their government and the way it is partially and with bias governed the people. So I think that's important to mention. Z says, and thank you for commenting again, Z, the American people need to unite into a peaceful think tank using lawful process. I have never said anything against that. And Z, this channel, and I have over 1,400 videos. I've written articles, over 2,300 articles, 2 million words that I've written, and I have over 1,000 hours that I have done in the last 15 years. There is not one time that this channel has ever said to do anything that is unlawful. It is perfectly fine to question the government. It is absolutely essential for the news media to highlight the failures so that we can make them better. I have never advocated violence, and we denounce anyone who uses violence or intimidation to cause people to make an agreement that they normally would not do. I do not believe in that. I have never advocated for that. I don't care if it's left, right, or center. I don't care who does it. We will never advocate for violence or intimidation. We are talking about critiquing, questioning, and challenging our government, which we have the First Amendment right to do. Many countries don't have that. So they see that as being something that is scary, that is something that's dangerous. In America, it is called every day. That is our First Amendment right. That's why we don't have death squads or secret police that run around America making people disappear and shooting them in their heads in the middle of a square like we see in Venezuela, in Cuba, in North Korea, China. Look at the socialist nation. They all have secret police and death squads that make people disappear permanently. You don't have that in America, at least not yet. But thank you. Challenge me. Thank you, Z. I don't mind being challenged. Thank you. And I don't mind the fact that we say, yeah, we need to do this peacefully. I think we can. We just need to elect better people. And we have to consider not just a great slogan they put on for 30 seconds in an ad. We have to consider what are they saying and what are the consequences of it. And for the people who have already been in office, what are the consequences of what they have done? If they are not effective, they're not efficient, get rid of them. Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I thank you for calling in. Who's on the line, if I have your first name?
Mike, it's me, John. How are you?
Hey, John. Good to have you on. What's going on?
Though I can't be there in person today, Mike, I want to talk to you about something. I want your take on something. I want to hear your audience take.
Absolutely.
All right. So, as you know, I read the news a lot. I read about everyone I can. Is it just me, or have you noticed an influx of articles diminishing the red wave, saying that Democrats have a shot?
Oh yeah, they're trying to pump them up, and they are definitely trying to say, "Hey, Democrats could win. Democrats are going to win." They want you to believe that because they have to, otherwise they lose power.
Now, is the reason that they're afraid of losing power, or do you think there's something coming? Do you think that they're using this as a way because they know what's gonna happen, that there might be a massive potential mail-in vote thing or something along those lines?
No, I think that they know that when the public starts questioning their actions and the consequences of those actions, they are going to be exposed as failing the American people, and therefore they're going to lose power, possibly for several elections, not just this one. And I think that's what they're terrified of.
Now, the other thing, I don't know. For me, it's a little concerning, and I'll tell you why. I am worried that where there's going to be issues in these elections, in these safe and secure elections that we're going to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Across the country, like we did in 2022. I'm a little bit worried about that. And as we've seen before, the news media is so connected to the Democrat leadership. Do you think they know something's coming and then that's why they're changing? I mean, that's the feeling I'm getting. Maybe I'm just being a pessimist about this.
No, I think they're trying to, I think they, you know what, I'm not going to fault any Democrat or any progressive, just like any libertarian, conservative, Republican. I wouldn't fault anyone from trying to push their agenda or try to sell themselves as best they can to create the best light they can. I have a problem when the process that they are using involves demonizing sections of America. I have a problem when they are lying factually about what they are saying to Americans, when we have a history that shows that their policies have already failed, and to continue that path only brings in more failure, and they're trying to blow smoke up our bottoms telling us, hey, No, it's all sunshine and unicorns. There's where my problem is.
I completely agree. Are you referring to the weird Biden speech?
Oh, it wasn't weird. It was a Reichstag moment. It was definitely, we have come we, let me say this, and I get emotional about this because it's very important.
Of course.
About, I think it was 2017, I first did an article about the Second Civil War. You can see it at mvos.com and see it for yourself.
Yes.
And I predicted at that time it'd be about 7 to 10 years towards a Second Civil War happening. We have heard many people today, like Tim Pool and many others, that have been saying, and even progressives are saying, there's a Second Civil War coming. And we heard that just in the last couple of days. They think that Joe Biden has brought us to that moment. I'm going to deal with that conversation a little bit later in the show in depth, but I'm terrified because we've seen him, Joe Biden has catapulted America to the edge of a second civil war, in my opinion.
Yeah. It definitely reminds me of Star Wars Episode 3. That speech was definitely, it reminded me of the end of Episode 3 where Palpatine takes control of the Senate.
It is exactly that. It is that moment when we hear Princess Amidala saying, and this is how democracy ends. It dies with thunderous applause. And that's what we saw. We saw Joe Biden with the Marines behind him, the red imagery, the words that he used, which I am going to go over for you, that echoes the speech from September of 1939 by a little German man with a really funny mustache. I'm going to show you the evidence of this. It is terrifying. And to hear them play games trying to dance around the fact that they have demonized Americans for using the First Amendment and saying, I have a question. I don't think you're right. That's the most terrifying thing to a progressive. I don't think you're right. Oh my God, you must be evil. You must be an Islamophobe because I'm a progressive and progressives are right. We're going to be right in history. We're right now and you have to accept it or else. Which is the most authoritarian dictatorship styled kind of thing to say. Terrifying.
You're right. You're very right. I think, and you can kind of, before, if you watch old presidential going back, you start to see the demonizing of one party with Barack Obama, right?
When he wanted to transform America but failed to tell people what he was going to transform it into?
I would say when he started with the rhetoric that if you weren't voting for Obama, you were this. Because that felt like a real rhetoric at the time.
Oh, it was. It was absolutely the rhetoric at the time.
Yes.
Still is.
Yeah. So I think that starts it, and then you see it continuing. So you start with Obama, and then you get Clinton calling Americans baskets deplorables. And now we have Joe Biden literally attacking half of the country.
Well, no one should be surprised that Joe Biden has said that. Joe Biden has previously said, besides his many racist statements, he's also said to the American people, if you're not black, if you don't vote for him, that you are not allowed to have a different opinion. He has said that black people and Hispanics aren't smart enough to use the internet. This man is a walking trove of racist and sexist statements for his, not just today. He has been doing this for 47 years that we have records of, as well as being buddy with an archduke of the Ku Klux Klan. Remember his statements about not sending his kids into the jungle of interracially mixed schools? Do you remember that? I do. It was in my lifetime. I'm old enough. I remember when he said that.
It's definitely startling, and I wonder specifically with this speech, though, how much is he writing the speech anymore? How much are people behind the scenes, big progressive actors, writing his? That's what I want to know.
I don't think Joe Biden is aware of the consequences of what he's saying, because
So you think he?
he is in an echo chamber. He doesn't
Yeah.
speak to American people. He doesn't mix with the American people. He wants to try and sell this idea that he's just a working class guy. He's a multimillionaire that has been a multimillionaire for 3, maybe 4 decades and has never been around average American citizens, let alone the poor. He doesn't get to talk to them. He never has. And so
Right.
he's got no connection. So he is listening to his script writers to say, this is what the American people want you to say. And he has an echo chamber around him of progressives like Kamala Harris who are saying, hey, this is absolutely beautiful. It's wonderful. I love this. Say this. And so he's doing it because he has no idea what's going on.
Right. Because for me, I think I don't even think he understands the words he's saying at all.
I absolutely, positively do not believe that. No, I think he knows what he's saying in the moment, but I think that he has cognitive failure. I don't
Yes.
think he remembers completely what he said after the fact, not completely. And I think that he feels that it's coming across in a different way because he thinks he's average citizen. No, he may be average Joe compared to other multimillionaires in Congress, which is about 55% of Congress. So he may be average for the people who've been there for the last 4 decades on average a piece. Actually, the average of someone in Congress is about 27 years. They've been in for a quarter of a century each. So he may be average compared to some of them, but he's nowhere near any person walking down the street in America. He just isn't.
And I mean, Mike, you bring up something really interesting that I think highlights the problem. His cognitive decline, think one way, I think another way with the cognitive decline, but we have no idea of knowing because there is no cognitive testing for him. We do not know on what level he's in decline. We have no idea. The American people don't have any. And that's a scary thought.
But I want you to understand that that's not an excuse. See,
No, it is not. No, absolutely not. But it brings up a separate issue on how many other people in Congress are like this.
well, not only that, but let's be very clear. They are still the mouthpieces of an agenda and a policy, a political ideology that is seeking to destroy America. And we have heard from person after person. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the rest of the squad have been very clear. Ilhan Omar have been very clear when they say they want to make America socialist. Socialists have been very clear. They want to destroy the Constitution and impose UN human rights policies. They've been very clear about this. BLM is very clear that they are a communist organization meant to introduce communism to Black and Latinos and people of color. We know that we have these mouthpieces that are coming in to destroy America. They've admitted it. It's not a question. So even if one figurehead, one voice doesn't understand exactly the consequences of what they're saying, the movement does. And the movement is what's in power right now.
The other problem is if Biden doesn't understand what's being said, I mean, if he was cognitively there, you think he would be able to kind of pick and choose what he wanted to say more.
Joe Biden, if we look at Joe Biden back in the 90s, he was still a gaffe machine. He still said incredibly racist comments about American Indians and being taxi drivers and owning 7-Elevens. He said incredibly racist things about Barack Obama.
He's dumb as a post. Yeah, he's always been.
So that wouldn't change. What would change is his ability to bounce back from saying the most racist things, of completely plagiarizing various speeches from other people, and from just making up stories. I mean, did you hear his conversation about Beau Biden? Oh, Beau Biden used to knock on the windows of police officers and come on out and distribute their phone numbers to churches. Show me evidence of that. No one in the news media wants to even address that because there's no evidence. He just made up that story. He just makes up stuff. It's Corn Pop is another one that we know he lies, he plagiarizes, he makes things up based on the speech he's making. Remember when he said he had cancer, but he doesn't have cancer? We're going to cure cancer. He's come up with lots of little things. And again, I go back to the one that really pisses me off. How many Americans are still abandoned in Afghanistan? He won't even talk about it because he has no idea how many and he doesn't care.
No.
Because it's not going to win him votes in the election.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And final story, Mike, I want to cover.
Sure.
It appears that Lee Zeldin is in 4-point difference with Hochul.
Mm-hmm.
You think he's got a shot of taking the governorship?
Yes, but he's not 4 points within Governor Hochul. New York State is a bluer than blue progressive state. That is a fact. Mm-hmm. And so what it takes is people outside of New York City, outside of that progressive center and stronghold, you need upstate New York to vote. And he's encouraged a lot of people, especially after they tried to assassinate him.
I was about to say after the assassination.
Which we covered, where we had live video of that. And we spoke with the woman who took the live stream showing that assassination attempt, which came from, which is, I believe, connected directly to the very words a couple of hours earlier from appointed Governor Kathy Hochul. They have seen the lies. They have seen the failure. They are seeing that, and I want to cover this later in the show, that the progressive leadership of New York State is looking to go door to door, knocking on people's doors and saying, I want to check for guns in your house. I want to search and make sure you're in compliance. Otherwise, we're going to take away your property. We're going to put you on a red flag list. We're going to take away your Second Amendment rights, and they're going to get paid for it, which means they have a vested interest in commoditizing the Second Amendment and commoditizing taking away people's rights without a crime ever being committed and without any due process, which is the basis of every red flag law in the country. And I have been studying this for years. That is a fact. And we have just commoditized that. And people in New York are looking at this saying, they're looking at me as a price tag. Every name that they can put on that list is suddenly more money for them, as they are $8 billion in debt. They're giving money to illegal immigrants, and they are asking more and more of those illegal immigrants to come into New York State so that they can give them votes and nullify even other Democrats' votes. They're seeing this and saying, we've gone too far. And I think that makes sure that Lee Zeldin has a chance. I think he's 14 points out. He says 4, that means 14 to me.
Yeah.
And the underdog of it all is, I think that Larry Sharpe, who is a personal friend of mine, so I do have some bias there, I admit it openly. Larry Sharpe, my good friend, I believe he's going to get 10% of the vote.
I don't know about that one, Mike, but, you know, you do have a little personal bias. But I think Larry Sharpe is going to get enough votes to keep the Libertarians on the ballot.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's the key. I think he's going to be able to keep them on the ballot another year. Now, are they going to utilize that? That's another conversation. But yeah, he's only down by 4 points, they're saying, Lee Zeldin. And I think that's startling. And you're right. Upstate needs to vote if Hochul's going to go.
That's it. And we should, and I believe she should go, because she has proven herself to be ineffective. She has proven herself to be as biased and as divisive as we have seen with Joe Biden. Remember, she said 34,000 doctors and nurses, first line care, that were taking care of America. Remember in 2020, when everyone was terrified of the pandemic, these people showed up every day, worked overtime, double time every day for months, for a year on end, if not more. And she turned around and said, You're going to get a jab because she wants you to, because there is no scientific evidence proving anything about the jab. And when they said, when doctors and nurses said, no, I don't think I need that, she turned around and said, then you're fired, and fired 34,000 of the doctors and nurses that we need, which is why today, if you walk into a hospital in New York State, not just New York City, New York State, you're going to stay there hours more than you need to because she got rid of the people who would take care of you.
Yeah. No, you're completely on the money, Mike. You're on the money. And you're right. I think Lee's got a straight, good chance. And to summarize, I disagree with you slightly that that's why the Dems are pushing out the narrative because they need to pump up. I think something's coming. I am worried about whether it be voter ID laws or protection in our election. Not that that's ever happened before.
No. We've never seen a more secure election than the 2020 elections, because that's what YouTube has told me I must always mention, that it was the most secure and safe election.
Sure. Yes. I'm using my words as carefully as possible.
I know. And we confirm that we are telling you exactly what YouTube requires for this channel to remain on, which is that there is no question that 2020 was the most secure and safe election that has ever existed. And of course, all of the policies that Democrats instituted, even the ones that got overturned in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, all of the laws that they put out, no matter how unconstitutional some of them have been found in courts, are absolutely what we need for safe and secure elections, because the shadow cabal, as identified by Time magazine, said so. Because that's how you fortify an election.
Yeah, exactly. But thanks for having me call in, Mike. I look forward to being on the show next week, all right?
Absolutely, and I hope you're going to have a great day today. I know what's going on. I hope it's going well.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too. So, folks, I just like John, who is occasionally my guest, he's my co-host very often on this program. He does the J Rest Break show, which you see the little 1-minute clips that we do, the shorts. He's not able to be here today. He has other activities that he has to take care of. But, he called in, and you can too. 607-242-1582. I am happy to hear any voice, whether you agree or disagree, just as long as we can have a conversation about it. As long as you can tell me more than a bullet point that you hear on CNN or MSNBC. You want to have a conversation, say, Mike, I disagree. Great. I hope that some of these things that I am telling you, that I am predicting, these consequences that I am seeing, I'd like to hear that I'm wrong. I'd love to hear how the Biden-Harris administration have a plan for the food shortage that has already been told to us by the WHO and other world governments will mean 40% less food in the world. Please, if you know a Democrat or any politician that has come up and has a plan for that, let me know. I want people to know about that. Tell us. But as far as I know, the only person who's been talking about any kind of plan has been this channel since February of 2022, telling you to buy 10% more food. And if you have been, you've already saved money. You already have extra food for your family. That's the only plan I'm aware of, but I'm happy to hear anyone else's plan, if it exists. And I do want to get back to, and I'm going to talk about what's going on with Joe Biden, his Reichstag speech in Philadelphia, and what it means for not just the United States, but for the rest of the world. I do want to clarify that I did see in the comments that I misunderstood Z. That Z wasn't saying that what we were saying on this program is traitorous, rather that the United States government under the Biden-Harris administration, that they have been, this recent comment of his has pushed us in a negative path, and that Joe Biden was treading on treason. And I think that's an accurate way of looking at it. And again, I want to say, I was not attacking Z. I was clarifying my position to make sure it was very understood why I was saying what I have been saying about what Joe Biden said and what we will get into in greater detail in just a moment. So I do want to make sure that that was clear, that I was not picking on him and that, or in Z, and that I wanted to address the clarification of the comments, because I never want to make any of you feel like you cannot speak on this channel or that your comments are not valued. They are, even when you disagree. I just want to make sure of that, because you guys are vital. Your voices are important. So, and I don't know, maybe it's up to everyone else. You let me know. But I don't think it's, I want to give it just a little bit more time before I get to the in-depth comments about Philadelphia, Joe Biden, MAGA Republicans. I want to get into that and what it will mean for the world, as well as the United States. But before I get to that, I've mentioned a couple of other points. I do want to address that, because we have problems, as I was just mentioning, and I do want to cover this because this is important for everyone. We know that the United States has, because of our weakness, China, Russia, and Iran are working together. This is the three regional simultaneous wars that we have been warning against for over a year. It's not World War III with all of them together. It's each of them working independently, simultaneously. And the Biden-Harris administration can't handle that. And that is a problem, because we are seeing, as reported by DW News, this is Deutsche Welle News out of Germany, we see that Russia has now turned off all of the gas going into Germany. And that means Europe. That means everyone in the European region. Gas is off. They're going to have a very cold winter, because guess what? Renewable energy doesn't work. And it's not like Germany doesn't have renewable energy. They have tons of it. The problem is it doesn't work. It's not effective, which is why they're turning on their coal power plants. It's why they're turning back on their nuclear plants, because renewable energy, solar and wind, doesn't work. And even if they want to go and try that experiment even more, even if they want to double down, it will take at least 2 years. Now, why does that matter to people in America? Why does this matter for everyone else in the world? Well, two parts. One, energy prices are going to go higher, because Germany needs the energy to get their people through winter without freezing to death. They need it for their economy, to build things, to sell to Americans, because we don't manufacture anything anymore. We're a service economy. Thank you, President Obama. So we need them to manufacture our stuff so we can buy it, which takes energy. And they need to not freeze to death, which takes energy, which means the cost of gas and oil are going up in the world. They're not going down, which is inflationary, which means our recession is getting deeper by the moment. And that is ongoing. I checked earlier today, and Germany still does not have the gas coming from Russia. This is political. This is part of the war with Ukraine. Russia is doing this to punish Europe for helping the Ukraine. That's absolutely true. And it doesn't change the fact that this is going to impact everyone in America. Everyone who, you have an electric car? Fantastic. Try charging your electric car when we don't have the energy. It's just going to cost too much money. And people in Germany and in Europe are being told right now they can't, even if they have electric cars, they can't plug them in. Why? There's not enough electricity. They need to keep people warm during the winter. They need it for their factories. You can't, even if you have the electric car, you can't plug it in. So much for that kind of clean, free energy. And as Bloomberg is telling us, they don't have enough energy to get through the winter. 3 months from now is going to put them dead in the middle of winter, not at the end. So that's a problem. And we see that Russia is also, Gazprom, they're keeping them switched off. This is September 2nd. It's still current news as far as I am aware. I checked earlier today. And Iran, well, they're moving forward with their idea. They're killing gay people. So if you think, oh, America's evil, America's terrible, remember, in other parts of the world, the LGBTQAI++ alphabet, they're dying because countries like Iran that we're trying to do a nuclear deal with, the Iran nuclear deal that the Biden-Harris administration wants you to believe is going to make you safe, is also going to let them kill more gays and more lesbians and more LGBTQ. Because that's what our money is going to fund. Global terror. It's not an if, not a maybe, it's an absolute fact. That's what happened in 2016, and it's about to happen again if the Biden-Harris administration have their way. They're going to take billions of dollars to allow Iran to go out and kill the LGBTQ as well as commit global terror. And Iran is making sure that they are saying they don't care about what Joe Biden does. They just went into this open international waters and stole our drones from the U.S. Navy. That's how little fear they have of the Biden-Harris administration, that they're taking our property in international waters and they're just capturing it. This is a lack of respect and a lack of fear. And that's why we're seeing this happen. And even around the world, even if you were to go to China, the Uyghurs, now the world finally is starting in England, in the United Kingdom, they're starting to say that China might have committed crimes against humanity because the Uyghurs had disappeared, never to be seen again. This is the problem, folks. This is what happens when you have bad leaders who have no plan, that have no leadership, that are misguiding and destroying our nation. When we, as the tent pole of freedom in the world, become weaker, the rest of the world goes ballistic. And that's not even going into what we're seeing about Liz Truss in the United Kingdom. This is a problem. And I'm going to get to Biden in just a second. I just want to finish this up. And keep in mind, we're not going to get any more help from the United Kingdom. Boris Johnson is out. Hello, we have another call coming in. And this one is from our friend John Cordisco.
Oh, you admit in public I'm your friend. That's nice.
I've always done that.
Hey, I'm up in Albany. I'm watching your show on my laptop. I'm playing the New York State Championship for chess, so
Sweet.
I figured I'd give you a call and check in. And what the hell's going on?
Well, I'm about to start talking about Biden's Reichstag speech, but
well, it's funny. I saw on Twitter. I think it was a female conservative. I forget her name. She's fairly popular, and she says, "What I want to know is, I want Joe Biden's speech, but in the original German."
I get it.
I thought that was an awesome tweet. I'm like, you know what? That's what these tweets and memes are for. It gets to a point and it makes a point at the same time.
Yeah, it does. But I've been highlighting the fact that right now, we just got an announcement that came out of Bloomberg, and they admitted and they pointed out that, you've heard me say this before, that China, Russia, and Iran are working together jointly, and they're looking at increasing the amount of simultaneous conflicts in the world, which is what I've been saying for a long time.
Oh, sure. That's the smart move.
Yeah. And I've identified how Iran, the nuclear deal, how they plan to use, and they are currently killing more gays and LGBTQ.
You and I played some chess. You play Go.
Mm-hmm.
Your thing is, though, well, what is your opponent going to do? What's the smart move for him?
Yeah. You have to, that's the only way. You have to think about, okay, what's the next step? What happens after that?
And then, of course, they're not going to see, of course, because they're so myopic. They're like, basically, he's Mr. Magoo, that he's not going to see that it's his own policies and the nonsense. Afghanistan was a perfect example of the fact that we're weak now, and they're going to pounce when they see an opening, just like chess.
You have to
the
expect
same.
that. And politics
Yeah,
is
you
no
have to
different.
expect it. And then when you do, they go like, "Well, we didn't expect that." Really?
Then what are you doing? You're
I
failing.
mean, are you remotely paying attention?
hmm Yeah. So it terrifies me that we're seeing that. And I was just
You know what? You know what?
Good.
You know what? No, it really terrifies me more. They just played a clip on the radio I heard earlier today.
Yeah.
That Biden made a quote when he was running for president to, I think maybe it was right after he was sworn in, to a bunch of military people. I will never use you as a prop for politics. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Now here's the thing. Here's the part that scares me. The people that are really running this country, and we know it's not Biden,
Mm-hmm.
they thought that optic with the red and the soldiers and the rhetoric, they thought that was okay.
Of
That
course they
scares
did.
the hell out of me.
Of course they did. They because it was a show of power, show of strength that will encourage their base to come out and vote.
Well,
They
plus the
didn't care
fact that
about
they're
everyone
trying to
else.
encourage some fringe nut bars, one or two of them, to do something stupid, so that way they can focus on that and say they're all like that.
See, I don't think they even thought that far. I think that, and the reason why he did it on September 1st, it's the beginning, that is the official start of the election season. I don't think they thought any further than this will get our base to show up and vote. This is a show of power to our base.
Well, see,
I don't think
because-
they thought further than that.
No, because they're political opposite, which is us guys. Our base is already energized up. Theirs isn't.
Well, they have no reason to. Everything that the Biden-Harris administration have done for the last 18 months has failed. That is an objective fact. I don't care how people feel about it. The fact is, it is a failure. They have done nothing that has worked.
But Mike, that's not their truth.
You know what? But truth isn't relative. Truth is a hard fact. And the empirical
Well,
facts.
not when you think it's like some progressive thinks.
Well, yeah, but that's why they're only 7% of the Democratic Party. They have a big voice.
Yeah, well, they also
but they're small.
have control of 90% of the media and about 80% of the institutional government in this country. So they're doing okay for a small percent.
Yeah, but that's why we're seeing a backlash to all of this because
Yeah.
they are finally. They thought that they were safe enough and they were covered enough by people like Zuckerberg working with the FBI to silence people. People like YouTube silencing people.
I was watching a video that the Washington State Senate race. What's her name? Murphy, I think. I forget her name.
Yeah.
They always blow out the Republican. It's within 3 points.
Yeah. And
I mean, that's in Washington State. This isn't some swing state. This is Washington State, where Seattle is.
Yeah, and that's because they haven't gotten to, and we haven't even gotten to the election where everyone shows up. This is a much smaller pool of people.
See, in a weird way, I guess that stunt they pulled with Biden's speech and the terrible optics is encouraging, and I'll tell you why. You know, we know both sides. We've been in local politics, and we know they have internal polling. And usually internal polling is pretty accurate.
Usually. Depends on where you get it, yeah.
It's more accurate than a lot of the national ones. Here's the thing, though.
That's true.
If they would roll the dice and do something that incredibly stupid, they've really got to be under the gun.
I think, well, they are under a gun. Every single news media outlet that's credible has come out and said there is, in fact, even the non-credible news sources have all said every bit of data shows that Democrats are going to lose in a landslide. They are desperate because they have nothing to point to. See, normally, if they hear they're going to start losing big, they put out something that they have.
But I wish the conservative media would toe down on that, and I'll tell you why. They're going to win. Republicans are going to win. They're going to win. They're going to win. They're going to win. And it gives a lackadaisical attitude to Republican and conservative voters. They're going to win anyway. I'll stay home.
Yeah, I understand. So
I'd rather see the polls close to say, oh my God, we could lose this. I better get out there and bring 3 of my friends.
I wish that people would do that, but the fact
a lot of people do, believe it or not, they do.
No, I'm not saying that they don't bring their friends out when they think it's close. I think but there is such a discrepancy that it's not realistic to say.
Well,
hey,
at least every family member, everybody in your house, that's probably more realistic. But
yeah,
all right, come on, we're all going to vote. I don't want to hear BS. Get in the car.
We have to go out and vote because even if we win in the landslide, it is important to come out and vote to make sure they understand this is a mandate. It's not just, oh, people didn't like one thing, they didn't like this candidate or that candidate. It's no, the entire policy, the entire push is a problem because the consequences are so obvious to everyone in the world that it's going to destroy America.
Yeah, everybody in the world except for Americans.
Except for the news media that is controlled by the far left.
Yeah.
Every other news source you go to.
Did you hear what CNN did during the speech?
Yeah, they changed the color of the background to make it look
it was like
pink.
purplish pink, and it screwed up the red stripes in the flag, and I'm going, holy crap.
Because the guys at CNN, the new CNN, the improved, more credible CNN, decided that rather than show the American people what Joe Biden was trying to do, they recognized this was pure
I don't think it was the
taxpayer-paid
new
propaganda.
owners. I think that was done at a managerial level, but I don't think it was done at the top level. I think somebody intervened during the live speech, and maybe they had repercussions over it.
No, I think it's when it's the president speaking like that. No, that's a top level decision.
Maybe somebody just panicked.
Someone
and just did it.
Someone
And
saw
they made some BS excuse about they pushed the wrong button or something.
No, that comes from the top. When it's the president, if it was a lower election, absolutely, someone middle management could do that.
To be honest with
President
you, I don't think
comes from the
same guys that fired Tubin and Brian Stelter would change the color on that. I don't think those are the same guys.
I think it is because they recognize that this was draconian. It was a dictatorship. This was authoritarian, straight out of Orwell.
So by changing it, they just draw more attention to it.
Not to their viewers because their viewers don't know any different.
Oh, I'm sure people noticed, and then after the media got a hold of it.
You know what? No, I guarantee most people aren't watching CNN. And the people who are watching CNN aren't watching anything else. So, no, their base of viewers had no clue and don't pay attention to the other media.
Even still, I would have to say, just out of guessing, that the CNN viewers that watched that speech, 8 to 10% went, what the F is this?
No.
And that's all you need is 10%.
I hope they did. I hope they did.
Even 5%.
I hope it was at least that much.
Especially now the older baby boomers that love CNN, that know better and were around for a lot of stuff, saw that and went, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, but the smaller, younger, I should say, the younger viewers, especially and the younger you get, I mean, your families.
Yeah, but the older
this.
viewers are a lot more reliable voters, especially in an off presidential year.
Yeah, but I'm terrified for those younger viewers, especially the kids who are watching this because mom and dad are watching this. Right. This is what they are being taught is freedom. That this is what America is supposed to be about. And that other people who voice and say, I have a different opinion, that they are evil and traitors.
With two Marines standing right behind them in the background.
Yeah. The full weight and power of the federal government on display saying, don't you dare.
This is kind of a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Now, there's got to be a video around somewhere. Somebody's going to make one soon. What they would do is superimpose Trump in Biden's spot and make a speech and see what it looks like.
Even if you... Oh, God, someone
There's
should
got to be a run around somewhere where they just switch them out.
I haven't seen it, but I guarantee you, if you heard...
Oh, there's going to be one, I'm sure.
And people would freak out because it's
they would
demonic.
freak out. They'll probably be riding in the streets. It might be that bad.
There would be. Hey, excuse me. I was covering this live. I actually covered his speech.
Yeah, I know you did, yeah.
And it was... the half hour beforehand, I pointed out, 4 or 5 major issues that are affecting America right now. He didn't mention a single one.
What I ended up doing was nothing against you, but they covered it live on Timcast.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so I watched it because you get the snide remarks, which are really funny because those guys are comical.
No, he has a big
even I went like, it was torturous to listen to.
If I wasn't covering it myself, I would have watched Tim or maybe Joe Rogan myself. or
What is
Stephen
this? An
Crowder.
old? What is this? A Babylon Bee satire skit?
I wish it was. I wish it was. But I had to cover it because I just had a feeling
Oh
in my
no, I
gut
understand.
that,
I understand.
and I did as best as I could. You know, one guy versus their teams. One guy who
Well, I
barely
like
has
the
money, but
backpedaling. I like the backpedaling they're doing now. I'm thinking, wait a minute. There was a whole bunch of people that okay this speech, had okay the optics and the red lights and the pillars and the soldiers and the way it was set up in Philadelphia.
they didn't think
All a bunch of people had okay it through a bunch of meetings.
they didn't think they would get this kind of reaction because they're not connected to the American people, and they were absolutely sure that the social media would cover this for them. Just like when the FBI told Zuckerberg and told Twitter, yeah, silence
So
the
their
laptop.
their bubble is that sealed up.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And we know it is. The laptop, the fact that Mark Zuckerberg now is telling us the truth that we all knew.
Well, he's
That-
soft soaping it over. He's making it sound like, well, they didn't mention Hunter Biden's laptop specifically. Yeah, the FBI agent walked in the office, talked to one of the big shots, and said, well, there's Russian disinformation, wink, wink.
No, he's going to make it sound as nice as he possibly can.
That's what I mean, yeah.
But it doesn't matter because the fact is, the FBI walked into Facebook and Twitter and said, kill any story, not just a laptop, any story about Joe Biden ahead of the election. And they said,
Yep.
okay, boss, that tells them they have control. And we've already seen before the disinformation board came out back in January of 2022, we know that there were stories. December into January of 2022, we saw that there were stories that came out from the New York Times and the Washington Post saying that the Biden administration was going to the social media giants and colluding with them in trying to silence people. Then we got the disinformation board. Now we have private disinformation boards. This is directly from the government. They are, if not controlling, colluding with the social media giants to silence any voice that's unapproved.
Disinformation board is just like the Ministry of Truth.
Yes, absolutely. And we have the evidence that says they've been doing this.
What's that old saying? You paint a turd white, it's still a turd.
You polish a turd, it's still a turd.
Yeah,
No matter how shiny.
You can call it whatever you want to it, but it's still a turd.
Yeah,
It's still the Ministry of Truth.
exactly. And so this is why it upset me so much. And I've heard and I've listened to the various comments that have been made. And matter of fact, I'm going to go into that in just a second on the show, talking about how they have been trying to cover this up, and they can't. And I'm also going to show people the Reichstag speech from 1939, and how
That's exactly what I thought of when I saw that.
Yeah, and I did too. And I'm going to show people what was actually said in 1939 and how it sounds
wait a minute.
so much like
I
this.
just thought of something.
What?
The burning of the Reichstag, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all know now who did it and who they blamed.
Crystal Knox. Yeah. Huh?
But I'm thinking, is that going to happen here?
It's possible.
Are they going to burn down the Federal Reserve or the Supreme Court building? Are they going to put a bomb in God forbid, in the House of Representatives?
Wait a minute,
Are they going to do that to their own people?
Wait a minute. We've already heard Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi have come out and said, do not listen to the Supreme Court. Don't follow the rules of law. We have heard them say that. That right after the decision on abortion came out, for everyone who doesn't.
Because it's more important to be morally right than factually right.
Which we've heard from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez since 60 Minutes, her interview on 60 Minutes.
I'm wondering if they'll do a federal building somewhere and blame it on. This is like Reichstag, burning down the Reichstag type tactics. I'm waiting for
quite
that.
possible.
I'll tell you the truth now. If you asked me a year ago, I would have said you're out of your mind. Now I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they will.
Well, we just had Rastusha. He just called in. He said the same thing. He thinks that this is a setup for an event to happen, and that's going to be demonizing, of course, Republicans and MAGA Republicans for some reason. And they're going to use that to try and crop up. And if that's the
I
case,
just-
that's going to
I
happen in
think that's-
October.
I've been getting true with people a little bit with this kind of line. One, besides the Civil War and the Democrats in the Civil
Mhm.
War era, when has it ever been that one political side will be willing to burn down the entire country and the entire republic just so they don't lose power? Just think about who you're voting for and think about that.
In America, it's never happened before, other than
Well,
the Civil
it
War.
almost happened. It almost happened. Civil War, that's what it was in essence. We'd
I'm
rather
saying
have the
other
whole
than
place burned down and leave than capitulate to,
in modern history, that hasn't happened in the last
No,
100
well-
years. Not in the last 100 years.
No, but it's got to that point now, I think, where
Yeah.
it's I'd rather, it's like a couple in a divorce. I'd rather burn the house down and let her have it.
Well, we are definitely there. Yeah. We are on the edge of civil war. Absolutely.
But well, okay. I just thought I'd call in. I caught you here, and I'm up in Albany, so I'll get off now and let somebody else call in. But keep the faith.
Absolutely. And I thank you for calling in, man. I'm glad that you're with us.
Yeah, okay, Mike V. Yeah, I gotta go play some chess and torture my mind a little bit.
Have some fun with that.
Okay.
All right.
All right, bye.
And so, folks, just like you've heard previously, you heard John Rastusha call in, you've heard John Cordisco come in, and John, by the way, Cordisco has his own program on YouTube, the Cordisco's Corner. Definitely check him out as well. He has shorter, different takes. We do long form political commentary. By the way, if I haven't mentioned it before, please make sure that if you can, like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. We are about 90 subscribers away from reaching 1,000. It is so close. And your help makes a big difference, because even as they try and shadow ban us, even as they try and suppress our voices, like they have recently done with Facebook and YouTube, we've shown you their attempts to try and silence our voice, just like they tried at SUNY Broom. It's you becoming a subscriber lets us reach more people around the world to share our voices, all of our voices, whether you agree or disagree about these important issues. And we really appreciate each and every one of you for doing that. It costs you nothing. It makes a world of difference for us. So I want to get back to, now I just mentioned, and I was mentioning, and I know in the comments, we had addressed it a little bit. We're not going to get help from the United Kingdom. The recession is going to get worse, as we just mentioned before John called in, and I'm going to get to, immediately after I finish this, I'm going to talk about Biden. I'm going to talk about that speech. I'm going to talk about the Second Civil War. But I just want to finish it up that we're not going to get help from out of England. Boris Johnson is gone. And the person who's most likely to replace him is a woman called Liz Truss. And this is important because England is our greatest ally in the world, our best relationship. And Liz Truss, she says she's a conservative. She's not. In the United States, she'd be called a rhino. And Liz Truss, she's saying all the right things, well, mostly the right things. And she's saying that she's going to try and get away from the green energy myopic view and try and help the people of England. But I want you to understand, she's doing whatever it takes to get the vote. She's no different than what we're seeing from Joe Biden and Democrats. And that means, and we've looked at, to an extent, we've been looking at her history. She is not going to be a strong supporter for a Republican or conservative view. She is at best a moderate, if not left-leaning. And that means that America, the weakness we see in America, is only going to grow. Now, when you say, gee, how bad is that? Let's, for a quick second, talk about the Second Amendment, okay? Quick moment, talk about the Second Amendment here. If you remember, last week we reported, well, let me start a little bit further. We have always said on this show, and we have done research for years, since 2018, we've been doing research on red flag laws. And red flag laws take away your Second Amendment rights. They violate your privacy and your property. They violate about 4, maybe 5 different amendments, including due process. You have none. You are guilty without ever committing a crime, without even the accusation of a crime. You are punished, and then you get to try and prove yourself innocent if you can afford it. That is every red flag since 1999, and we've talked to many of the states about this. This is true in every single version of red flag laws. In the state of Illinois, last week, they suddenly decided to do compliance checks on legal gun owners who had not broken any law. And out of 1,025 people, 300 people lost their freedom, lost their Second Amendment rights. They were guilty as charged without a crime, without even the accusation of a crime. And they lost their rights. And because of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, your money was used to pay the state of Illinois for stripping people of their rights. New York State saw that. And New York State, desperate for money, $8 billion, possibly $12 billion in debt for trying to pay illegal aliens with your money, New York City and New York State said, this is a payday. And suddenly, Eric Adams, the practical progressive of New York, decided, hey, it worked in Illinois. Now we're going to go knocking door by door in New York City and checking and compliance checking law-abiding citizens that have not committed a crime, are not accused of a crime, to check on them so that they can strip their Second Amendment rights and get paid with your tax dollars. That's what the Democrats and progressives are doing now. This is the progressive. Eric Adams has called himself the practical progressive. This is his practical ideology in effect. They're going to knock on your door and your neighbor's door. They're going to find a problem that doesn't exist, that they are going to say, you are a danger to yourself or your community. They're going to take your property. They're going to demonize you in the news media. They're going to take away your rights and your children, as we have proven with lawyer after lawyer, politician after politician. The red flag laws will take away your children, and then they are going to get paid because the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act commoditized you and your rights. And Biden is telling you, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. We're going to take away your rights. We're going to take away your freedoms. And we're going to get paid. We're going to pay people to take away. They have a financial incentive in states that are desperate for money to take away your freedom. This is the progressive ideology that is being pushed by not just Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but Democrats in Congress, in the Senate right now. They all voted for this, to take away your freedom, to put a price tag on your back. And that's why Joe Biden decided that he wanted to go out and have a payday. That's why on September 1st, he got out and was the first person to start talking about why you're evil, why you, the American citizen, are just terrible, demonic. You're anti-American. You're not patriotic. You are a domestic terrorist because you don't agree with him, because you're not a progressive, because you don't agree with what the state of Illinois and what New York City have done, that they are going to get paid to take away your rights. How dare you question that? How dare you question Joe Biden for abandoning Americans in Afghanistan? You can't say that. It's just like the laptop. You can't say that. You must say that the 2020 election was the most secure election ever in the existence of elections. You must say that. or you will be punished. That's what they're saying to you. And if you have questions, they're playing games. They are using the major media like CNN, who are turning around and they are changing the details. They are twisting the facts so that when you look at this, so that when news media, when New York Times, when the Washington Post, when social media puts up a post of this event, they're going to say, no, it wasn't all red like evil. It wasn't evil personified. It was pink. Your eyes lied to you. That was your setting on your computer. That was a setting on your TV or your phone. You are wrong. See, he's not evil. It's pink. It's not red. How could you possibly have mistaken that? See, that's because you are a conspiracy theorist. It's because your eyes lied to you. This is how they get away with this. That's why they are doing this. And we know, thank God, some of the news media are willing to actually point out to you and say, no, it isn't that he had a pink background. He didn't have that. They changed the colors, like I was saying to John, both Johns, when they called in. They changed it so that they could lie to you, so that they could say, oh, anyone who disagrees with the approved message, they must be a conspiracy theorist. They must be QAnon. They must be some kind of domestic terrorist. They're trying to twist and warp you so that you're going to come up with some kind of, you're going to fall into that trap. Don't believe them. Believe the media. Obey. That's what they want you to do. Obey. It's deceptive. It's so deceptive. And they know it. I mean, and this speech, which they're trying to say was not a political, it wasn't political. This wasn't a political speech. How can you say that? Joe Biden was talking about America. How about this? We predicted the economy going forward. We predicted how deep and how long this recession will last. And most people who have seen this have said we're either exactly right on or we're being too generous. We're being too happy in our outlook. And God help me, I hope I am being too generous. And we have been, our estimate for the economy is on the bright side. I hope so. Because we see what's being reported in Europe. Did Joe Biden talk about that? Did he talk about the Americans that were abandoned in Afghanistan? The Americans we are abandoning right now in Ukraine. Did he talk about the 200 Americans that are being held in China? Did he talk about the trade between China and the United States? Did he talk about the Iran nuclear deal? Did he talk about our southern border that is wide open and terrorists have been caught trying to commit assassinations because they walked across our border that the Biden administration tells you, no, you've never seen anyone walk across the border. Don't mind the fact that we have tons, we have years, we have over a year of evidence of showing from major news media, local news media, showing you just train cars full of illegal aliens walking across our border, all across our southern border. And they'll tell you, no, you didn't see that. It's not true. We've had the press secretary of the United States say, nope, doesn't happen. No, it's not real. No, but I saw it. I saw it on ABC News. Nope, no, you didn't. It wasn't real. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me those Haitians that were living under a bridge, 17,000 Haitians that went to live under a bridge in Del Rio, Texas, that the White House tried and Democrats tried to tell you were being whipped, that didn't happen. That lie that they tried to sell you with those pictures that they wanted to show you from only one angle. Those people were walking across the Rio Grande and walking into America. And yet, that's not real, according to the Biden-Harris administration. It's only real when they can demonize you and say, see, black people are being whipped. Then it was real. Now that we know the truth, Nope, not real. Didn't happen. You're mistaken. Conspiracy, QAnon, you're a domestic terrorist. You didn't see that. It's not true. My God, is this the ministry of truth? My God, is this a dictatorship? We hear these kind of things coming out of North Korea, Venezuela, and Cuba. That's not the American government. I'm going to get to your comments in just 1 second. I am. But I want you to understand, and I covered this. And if you think, Mike, but why didn't you say something? I covered the event September 1st live. I spent a half hour going over the issues of facing America, the issues that people are voting on, the things that Democrats absolutely are trying to tell you they got it right. I addressed 5 or 6 of those issues half an hour before he actually opened up his mouth. And I was dumbfounded. You can see it in my live response. Dumbfounded by the evil that was being projected across the screen. And if you think I'm wrong, I am happy to hear any voice. You can call in to 607-242-1582. I am happy if you think I am spouting domestic terrorism, if you think I'm QAnon, if you think I'm a conspiracy theorist, if you think I don't know what I'm talking about, that I didn't watch the program, please call in. I am happy to have that conversation. If you are a diehard progressive, you're a diehard Democrat, and you're saying, but Mike, you just don't get it, please call in, tell me why, and tell the world why we did what we didn't understand. Tell us how this was unifying by demonizing a fully 40% of America. Please tell me how this was something that made you feel good about America, because I can't see it. If you believe America's a free nation, if you believe America, if you believe in the First Amendment, the ability to question your government, then please tell me how this speech was anything except evil. How it was literally dragging America to a second civil war. Because I think we are on the edge of it. Let me get back to some of the comments. I haven't been forgetting you guys. I apologize. I know there's a lot of comments today, but I want to try and get back to a few of them here. Jan says, I don't remember what state it was, but I saw an article where they passed a law the other day that allows abortion at every trimester, even after the baby is born. That scares me, Jan. But yes, Democrats have been pushing for late-term abortion, which almost nobody in America, 70% of Americans, do not believe in late-term abortion. And yet, if you say Democrats who have voted for late-term abortion are, and if you say Democrats are for abortion, late-term abortion, they will tell you, oh no, you're evil. Again, they are telling you your lying eyes don't know what's going on. They're telling you to obey. Obey the approved message. Don't ask questions. Don't think about it. Just obey. See the headline, say yes. That's all you're supposed to do. And it's terrifying to me. Dow says, I was in a local municipal building, and in Tioga County, there was a meeting being held between officials that has something to do with responses and positions involving domestic terrorism response and civilian unrest. I believe that across this nation, we heard many Democrats who listened to Joe Biden's speech say this was unnerving, it was unpatriotic, it was un-American, it was divisive as hell. So it doesn't surprise me that across this nation, there are local governments that are saying, what are we going to do? Joe Biden has brought us to a civil war. He is trying to turn Americans against Americans based on your political ideology. If you believe that America should be the priority of America, Joe Biden has said, you are un-American. I want to be very clear about that. MAGA means make America great again. He doesn't want to say that because if he says that, Most people, I'd say 90% of people, yeah, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Cory Bush, Ilhan Omar, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they may not agree with that, but the average American, I'd say 90% of average Americans, even legal immigrants, even illegal immigrants coming to America, believe America should focus on America first. Even illegal aliens will tell you America should focus on being American first. You don't believe me? Ask illegal aliens. That's why they left their country, because their country didn't give them enough freedom to actually be successful in their lives. They want America to be successful. They want America to continue to have the wealth and comfort that you do not find in the rest of the world. Even illegal aliens want America to be America first. The illegal aliens want America to be great because it will benefit them as a byproduct. And Joe Biden is telling you that if you believe that America should be great, if you believe that America should focus on American issues first and the best interest of America first, you are a terrorist. That's what Joe Biden has said. And let me be clear, he actually said these things. It wasn't an accident. He said this. I will show you the words he actually said. This is terrifying. Let me go back to some of the comments. The government brings in immigrants. Little Dipper mentions that the government brings in immigrants that are leftist due to handouts, except some Hispanics don't apply as they're Republican. They do this because the left won't have kids. A lot of people brought up that many on the left, the far left, that because of their fears of either overpopulation, climate change, abortion rights, the ability to have random sex on a regular basis, that they just, they don't want to have families. They don't want women to have families. They don't want women to be mothers. They don't believe in raising a family. One of the key cornerstones of BLM, if you remember, was they don't believe in a nuclear family. BLM doesn't believe in a mom, a dad, and their kids. They don't believe in two parents. They don't believe in that. And I know they removed it after everyone paid attention and actually looked at what they had up for years. For years, they had on their website, no nuclear family. They don't believe in that. They don't believe in a mom and a dad and raising kids. They don't believe in that. So, yes, that's the problem for the left because they have to constantly get new recruits. Because when the progressives live by that ideology, when they die, there's no one else. No one replaces them. Their kids aren't there to continue in their path. They have to convert your kids into their position. And yes, Hispanics and blacks, traditionally, by culture, are actually conservative. That's a fact. It's a well-known fact. It's not a well-reported fact. They want to tell you about voting and how they vote, but they don't want to tell you about the culture. And the culture is actually conservative. That's a well-known fact. Dow says, pretty certain that it was supposed to be a closed-door meeting that he saw in Tioga about getting ready for a violent response. And here's the thing. I agree that they are looking across this nation and they're saying, if everyone believes America should be great, if illegal aliens say they want America to be great so that they can benefit just from being even in the shadows, it makes their lives better. And we have a president, we have a person in the White House, and we have a Congress that is saying, nope, got to get rid of all that. We have to break the Constitution. We have to violate the executive orders. We have to give away everything free and break our economy because they want power. Someone's going to at some point, people are going to push back and say, stop. At some point, people are going to say, I don't trust you anymore. I mean, let's think about it. The executive order for college debt, I understand. I know a lot of college students are like, Hey, I'm going to take the money because it's there. I can't blame you for that. But I can blame the Biden Harris administration for violating the Constitution, violating what Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi even said in December of 2021, that he can't do that. He can't wave away college debt. It doesn't happen. And economists, all the economists across the world are saying this is actually going to increase inflation. It's not going to help anyone. It's actually going to hurt more people. It's actually going to, instead of just being a problem for 44 million people, it's going to be now a problem for 350 million people in America and then the world. This is terrifying to me. Let me show you something. Talking about Biden's speech. An Iraq vet and former Democratic official criticizes Biden over the presence of Marines in the speech, because that's a big deal. Because that is an expression, and by the way, if you notice, like I said, CNN, what picture are they going with? The pink background. The pink background, which is why the color is all off. Biden's shirt isn't white. The stripes aren't white. He looks more like a lobster. There's a reason he changed the colors. The Marines, they wear white. That doesn't look like white, does it? It looks cream colored. The color is wrong on their uniforms. Why? They changed the color. You can tell it's that obvious. And they're using these Marines as a symbol of the power of America, because if they weren't, those Marines would not be in the shot. Now, one of the comments that came is from the White House. The White House says that the speech wasn't a political speech, and that the Marines were absolutely normal. That normally, here it is, Friday afternoon, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said that the presence of Marines during the speech was intended to demonstrate the deep and abiding respect that the president has for these service members. That is a lie. And she goes on to say, to these ideals and the unique role our independent military plays in defending our democracy, no matter which party is in power. I'm sorry, the military is not independent. The president is the commander in chief. They are dependent. There is a chain of command. It starts at the White House and it goes down to the privates. It is a chain of command. They are dependent. That is a lie. That is someone who is ignorant of the Marine Corps, of the military in general. They never spend a day, never talk to anyone in the military, because that is a lie. And she goes on to say that it is not abnormal for presidents to give speeches in front of military service members. That is true, because they are in front of the military when they're talking about the military, when they are talking about the military duties, whether it's fighting in Iraq, Afghanistan, if they're on an aircraft carrier, talking about the end of fighting in Syria, if they're actually talking about the military and the military's duties. They don't pull up the military and have them stand around while they talk about taxes. They don't have the military standing behind them when they're talking about illegal immigration. And they definitely don't have Marines standing in camera shot as the president says, vote Democrat. That doesn't happen. That is evil. That is trying to convince the American people and the next generation, obey or else. See those Marines? Or else. The full power of the United States government, the full power of the United States military, as commanded by the commander-in-chief, the top of the chain of the ladder. You're going to obey, because that military is going to make sure you do it. That's why he had them there. That's why he had Marines on. Not because he was trying to be oh, look, I celebrate the military. No, he doesn't celebrate the military. What he's using is enforcers. He's using the military and their chain of command to enforce and to make sure you mentally understand they're going to use violence against you. This is a threat. Because if it wasn't, then he would have talked about Afghanistan or Ukraine or China or Iran. He would have talked about the military doing what the military does. Not once in the speech was he talking about what the military does. He was talking about voting Democrat. That is a taxpayer-funded political speech. It's a campaign speech. Just 3 days earlier, he was talking in Pennsylvania at a campaign speech. No one complained. Why? Because even though Marines were present, go back. I covered that too. I went through the entire speech that he did in Pennsylvania, trying to prop up Pennsylvania Governor Wolf. And the Marine Corps band, the president's own, were present. And they never showed them. Not when he was talking about voting for Governor Wolf. When he said, vote for John Fetterman. You never saw the military because it was political. But this time, on September 1st, when he has no good news for America, he has to threaten America. And that's why the Marines were on the screen. Little Dipper says, so the military was there as a threat against civilians who decide to vote another way. Yes, it is a subliminal message reminding people about the power of the government and how it is being directed by the commander-in-chief of the United States. Yes, it is a warning. Yes, that's correct, Little Dipper. It is a warning against average civilians. And remember, this is from the same president that says, you can't fight against the United States. The Second Amendment, you can't, it doesn't matter because they have F-16s. Your little handgun isn't going to work. Even though he leaves out, you can own a cannon. He leaves out that 732,000 machine guns are owned by American citizens right this second. Right this second. And it's legal. Just have to go to the ATF. Ask the ATF. They keep a record of this. Americans own flamethrowers. They own rocket launchers. They own tanks. And yes, F-16s and F-15s. Americans do own that because you can legally own that. But Joe Biden has lied to you and said, no, you can't own a machine gun. Yes, you can. Joe Biden has said, you can't own a cannon. Yes, you can. Joe Biden has said, you can't fight against the government, so don't even try. And then he shows a bunch of Marines to reinforce, you can't fight against the government, but the government will answer to him. Those Marines will do whatever he says. You better obey. This is the message that he has been working on for months. Your Second Amendment rights don't matter. It's only good for hunting. You don't get to use it for anything else. And even if you tried, you won't be able to win. But he has the government, he has the military, and he will beat. That's the message he has been pushing at you for months, since the day he got in, since he started taking on the Second Amendment, which is the day he got into power, continuing a path that Barack Obama set up. Little Dipper asks, that's it? Only over 700,000 machine guns in private hands? Yes, that's it. 700,000. In New York State, there's 14,000 machine guns. In New Jersey is 24,000. Pennsylvania has 19,000. You know what, Mike Boy? If Joe Biden had posed in front of an F-15, it would be the same message, but at least that wouldn't. You could at least make some kind of argument there. But showing the Marines, this isn't a static piece of machinery that just happened to be there. No. He put them there because he ordered them to be there. Again, this is why it's a power. This is showing power of the chain of command. He ordered them to be there. It wasn't that they just happened to be there like an F-16, like a tank that happened to be parked there, and he just happened to have the right camera angle. He did this on purpose to make a point. And we have to call that out. Now I'm going to show everyone something. Yes, I know the Commandant should. The range report is speaking, the L1F, and I love the L1F. You should check them out, the range report, talking about firearms. Great guys. I love, and I'm part of the Liberty First Foundation. Every Friday at 9 p.m., I'm part of their roundtable talking about the Second Amendment and all of our constitutional rights. So I'm glad to see you guys today. But I want to hit on something else. I want to show you something that you may have missed. Now, this is the White House after the fact. This is from September 2nd, as reported by CBS News. So this is, again, left-leaning sources. This is from CBS News. This is our press secretary, Jean-Pierre. This is the press secretary, and I want you to hear what she is answering, because this is important. This is a question that we've been talking about, that the media has been talking about, and I want you to hear this.
Hey, Green. The president last night argued very forcefully that democracy is under assault, but what kind of concrete actions does he actually plan to take, given that he described this essentially as a fairly existential threat to the American republic?
So,
before she speaks, I want to make sure it's clear. What is the question? America is under threat. That's what Joe Biden said. Biden said there is an imminent threat to America for Americans not obeying the government. Am I paraphrasing slightly? Yes, I am, because I also heard the speech myself. But the media just asked, so what is Joe Biden going to do? What is the United States government going to do about these domestic terrorists, these MAGA Republicans? What is America going to do about 40% of the population? Here's the answer.
as you also heard from the president yesterday, he believes we're at an inflection point. And so that's an important thing why he wanted to make sure he gave that speech. But you also heard the president express optimism, right?
Okay, so Joe Biden said that America's at an inflection point. Okay, that's his feeling. And he believes that there's an optimistic future. That's a feeling. That's not what is he doing. Do you notice she hasn't addressed what is Biden, and by extension, what is the government of the United States doing about 40% of the population of America? Hasn't answered that yet. Let's keep going.
About the future of America, which was something that was important for him to deliver to the American people, that he believes there isn't nothing we can't do.
More feelings. Oh, Joe Biden thinks America can do anything. Fantastic. Everyone thinks that. That's not what are they doing. She's wasting time. She wants you to forget what was the original question. She is stretching this out, knowing that every news media is covering this, and they're going to clip this down to a 30-second soundbite. She doesn't want you, the American people, to remember the question was, what is the government, as led by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, what are they going to do to 40% of the American people? She doesn't want you to think about it. She's distracting you, talking about everything else so that you don't remember that's the question. Let's go on.
Right? He believes that we can do everything, anything, as a country. And we have seen throughout our history, America has made its greatest progress out of the darkest times.
What does the American history have to do with what America is doing today? What does this have to do with what Joe Biden and the Biden-Harris administration What are they going to do with those Marines today? What are they going to do with the military now? What are they going to do with Americans? She's talking about history. Who cares? That doesn't answer the question. She doesn't want you to think about that. She doesn't want you to think that you are just threatened with the full force of the United States military. She doesn't want you thinking about this. Let's continue.
See that for before. One way, of course, we can do that is by making our voices heard. And he said that. He said that the American people have a choice. But it wasn't just a policy speech.
He didn't say America. He said that only some Americans have a choice. He said some Americans are domestic terrorists. He said some Americans are destroying America. But the other Americans have a choice. The ones who aren't domestic terrorists, they have a choice. The terrorists don't have a choice. He didn't give or say that the terrorists have a choice. He demonized 40% of America, and he said they didn't have a choice, that they're not even independent. They don't have their own thoughts. They're being strung along like puppets on a string. That's what he said. He said that, and I will show you where he said that. I will show you from the White House itself when he said 40% of America doesn't think. They're being led by their noses, and everyone else may be able to think. But she still didn't answer, what is the Biden administration going to do? What is the Biden-Harris administration, the chain of command in charge of our military and the Congress and the Senate, what are they going to do to those Americans they just demonized? She hasn't answered the question. You should be asking yourself right now, why is she trying so hard not to answer the question? Let me continue.
The president believes that we can make great progress out of the darkest moments, and he calls on all Americans, regardless of which side of the aisle you sit on, regardless which ideology that you may follow, regardless of the political persuasion, to unite around democracy. And
No, he didn't ask us to unite around democracy. He asked us to obey. He didn't ask us to unite around democracy. He wasn't unifying American citizens. He demonized American citizens. He demonized anyone who questioned him. He demonized anyone who believes that America's priorities should be America first. He demonized them and said that they were domestic terrorists, that they were mindless drones. That's what he said. Those were his words. He didn't try to unify. He tried to divide, and he was very successful in being divisive. As he said, if you don't obey, here's the Marine Corps. This is the military that's going to put you back in your place. That's what he did, and she's trying to change the question. Again, she's changing the question. Let's go on.
he thought it was an important message, again, an inflection point, and that was the message that he delivered, again, giving people a choice and saying to folks, we need to come together and make sure our voices are heard.
So other than
Okay, so I'm stopping right there. In this entire thing, I wish the mainstream media would do their job. I wish political commentators would do their job like I have just done. I showed you the question. We all saw what Joe Biden said. We know that some of the news media are manipulating the imagery so that you will be mistaken, so that you can be said, oh, no, you're lying. You're not real. Your eyes lied to you. She is now telling you the words you heard were lies, that you didn't hear what you heard. And she avoided answering the question. At no point did she actually answer the question, what is Joe Biden going to do? Which is one of the most important questions facing America at this moment. What is Joe Biden going to do with the United States military that he had on display as a show of power? What is he going to do if people do not obey and do not vote Democrat? What happens next? She never answered it. And every political commentator should be pointing that out to every American. You can do whatever you want. If you want to vote Democrat, even after noticing that, that's on you. If you want to be a progressive after that, fantastic. That's on you. I can't tell you as an American citizen what you should do about that. But I want you to know as an American citizen that there is a threat that has been made that is sitting in the background, and the press secretary is refusing to answer a direct question from the news media to tell you what they are doing, which is an obligation of our government. Let me go on. Let me show you what else. Again, this is from CBS. There are no edits. This is what CBS, the left-leaning news media, is trying to sell you. Let me show you.
To vote and make their voices heard. The president has no plan to confront this threat that he described very forcefully last night.
I mean, it's not.
So he follows up. So the president has no plan. Just like with international policy. What's he doing about China? No plan. What's he doing about Taiwan? No plan. What's he doing about Iran? No plan. We have no plan. We have no long-term plans. What's he doing about the southern border? What is he going to do about our southern border that's wide open, that has terrorists coming across? No plan. What's he doing about inflation? No plan. What's he going to do about the food shortage? No plan. What's he going to do about the threat he just made against 40% of America? No plan. And he said, is that correct? Let's see this. What's her answer?
Not the first time he's confronted or spoke about this threat. He's done it multiple times at multiple.
So this is a threat. It's not a new threat. He makes this threat all the time. What do you mean? Why are you surprised? Why are you asking questions? Why are you asking a question about the threat of action against American citizens? He's made this threat many times. It's not a new threat. You should be aware. And she's right. He has made this threat. If you don't believe in intersectional politics, if you don't believe in critical race theory, if you don't believe gender identity politics, he has threatened you. If you don't happen to believe in, if you don't believe in mandated vaccinations, that the federal government should micromanage your body and your health, well, then he called you out. Remember, the unvaccinated are the biggest danger to America. They are endangering people's lives. That's not scientifically correct now, is it? We know that today. Doesn't matter. You're not wearing a mask with the mask mandate? Because he said you had to wear a mask. You are dangerous. You are unvaccinated. Well, here comes the science that says, well, it didn't make a difference. That wasn't helping. It was a lie. Okay, so he's threatened Americans before. Why is the news media asking for him? Why are they asking about what is he going to do? Again, not answering the question. Let's continue.
Multiple stages during the last 3 years, during his campaign, a couple times as well during his administration, and he'll continue to lift that up when he feels it's needed.
Not only did he threaten you in the past, he's going to threaten you in the future. She just said that. Oh yeah, and he's going to continue to do this. He's going to continue to threaten various groups of Americans. You didn't vote for me. If you're black, if you want to prove that you're black, if you are approved as black, well, you must vote Democrat. If you must be vaccinated. You must wear masks because the government said they have control over your health care, not you. Oh, you must vote Democrat. Otherwise, you're a MAGA Republican and a domestic terrorist, or else. Gee, and he's going to make that threat in the future. She just guaranteed he's going to threaten you with the full force of the United States military in the future. Gee, I wonder what subject he's going to do that on. Could it be those very same Second Amendment red flags that he has now he's commoditized and put a target on every American's back? Is that going to be the next threat? That they're going to use the United States military to knock on every single door like they did in Illinois, like they're about to do in New York City? That they're going to knock on every door, take your property, demonize you, punish you, take away your kids and your property? Is that the next step that the Biden administration is going to do? Because he's going to help you. He's going to do something. Because he's going to make crime go away by taking away your ability to defend yourself. And at the same time, you won't be able to stop that military that he just threatened you with, and they have promised they're going to threaten you with again in the future. Why has nobody in the news media, in the major news media, gone through this? Because they don't want you to think. Let me show you the end of this.
What it did last night was incredibly powerful. It was clear. It was concise.
Oh, I agree with that. It was clear, concise, and powerful. It was also a statement of authoritarianism. It was a dictatorship. It was Orwellian. It reminds me of 1939 Germany. She's right. It's very clear. It was very powerful. It wasn't good. It wasn't to anyone's benefit in the free world. She's leaving out that part, but let's go on.
It was steadfast, which is, and he did it a prime time, as you all know, to the American people, speaking directly to them that this is a time for us to come together.
Right, what I'm asking.
He didn't ask anyone to come together. He ordered people to obey, and he demonized those who said no. That's what he did. Again, that's what he did. She still hasn't answered. What is he going to do? What is he going to do as a reaction to the people who say no? This is the very end of it.
Any action behind his words?
Well, the action is making your voices heard. That is a powerful action. We have seen it across time. We have seen it throughout our American history that making your voices heard actually can change the direction of a country. So I would say that is the most powerful tool that we have as a country right now.
And I know you guys have addressed this.
So again, she does not answer. He asked, what are you going to do? Her answer is, well, people will vote. Yes, but he just ordered them to vote specifically. It was a campaign, an election campaign. This is what Joe Biden did. And she goes, well, no, they'll just vote. You don't need to know what else the government will do to punish you for doing something that was unapproved. This is on CBS. This is from CBS itself. Folks, I hope you share that little section that I've just been discussing on what CBS showed you to every single Democrat and progressive and any independent that you know. And then I ask you to show them, say, watch Joe Biden's full speech. Go to C-SPAN. Watch the full speech. No edits from any mainstream media. Go to C-SPAN. Listen to every word he says. Then listen to her say, I won't tell you what the government's going to do. I will tell you that the government's going to threaten you in the future. I will tell you that the government has threatened you in the past. Isn't that nice? Next question. Tell me how that is not terrifying to every American. Tell me that that's not trying to create a civil war. Let me go back to some of the comments here. I hope you do share this, by the way, folks. I really do. And if anyone disagrees with me, 607-242-1582. Call in. Tell me how what I have just gone over with the very words from the press secretary of the United States at responding to a reporter, word by word, completely uncut from CBS News, the left-leaning news source. If anyone has any dispute with the conclusions I have made, 607-242-1582. People have been calling in. You can call in too. Tell me how I got it wrong. Please. I really, desperately want to believe that we are not watching our government become a dictatorship. Please, give me a reassurance why the conclusions I have just shared with you are incorrect because I don't see that argument. Let's see. Dow says history has shown that insurgency and guerrillas have always been able to wear out a standing army unless that conventional standing army commits to total war and glass over a country. That's correct. Look at Afghanistan. They beat Joe Biden. Well, they actually beat the United States 20 years in, but they beat Joe Biden. He ran away, and all they had were handguns. And he, not only did they run away, but he gave them billions in weapons, in ammo, and in money. They won, but he's telling you, you can't win. So yeah, Dow, history has shown that. Jan says she does this kind of tactic every time that she speaks, speaking about the press secretary, Jean-Pierre. Yeah, she stutters, she stumbles, she tries to avoid the question, she doesn't want to answer it, and she reconfirms the very worst aspects of what everyone is terrified of. And she thinks she's good at her job. She's not. It's that obvious to pick her apart. Little Dipper says 40% less foods means it will cost more for what remains as more people will try to be buying less product. That is inflationary. This means that people will starve. Other countries are buying single-serve rations. You have to buy food if you want to live in the country. I agree with you, and that's a massive issue that should be talked about right now by the President of the United States. But Joe Biden, the guy in the White House, is concerned about how you're going to vote. He doesn't care if you eat or not. He cares about how you feel and whether or not you vote, and he wants to threaten you to make sure you're going to do what he wants. He wants you to obey. And we just heard the press secretary confirm, obey or else. And I just showed it to you. Please share this with other people. Please, let's hear those arguments because they don't exist. I don't mind about Little Dipper, I don't mind typos. It's not a problem. It's incredible right now, the things that are absolutely important, that are being absolutely avoided. And if you think when I was saying what Joe Biden said, that I'm sensationalizing it, that I'm somehow misrepresenting it, here goes the actual speech. This is from the White House itself. The remarks by President Biden on the battle for Democratic votes. That's what this is. It's not the soul of America. It's for Democratic votes. This was a campaign election speech paid for by you. He took your money to promote Democrats, to promote voting Democrat. He spent your money on it. And in this speech, I want to be very clear. He says, too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. It is not for the president to determine what is or is not normal. The Democratic Party does not get to decide what is normal. No political party anywhere in this nation, no political organization gets to decide what's normal for your life. They don't get to choose for you. You get to decide what's normal. Whatever you decide is normal. Because if it wasn't, the LGBTQAI plus would be terrified. Because they'd be telling you right now, if trans children wouldn't be allowed, except some people think it's normal. Because you have a choice to make. But he's saying your choices aren't normal. You don't get to decide. Joe Biden, the Democratic Party, progressives have decided what is normal, and you're going to live with it or else. He goes on to say, Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. That depends on where you stand. You see, I think it's pretty extreme to give the Taliban, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda weapons. I think it's extreme to give them money. I think it's extreme to abandon thousands of Americans in a terrorist nation for a year and never mention them ever again. I think that's pretty extreme. I think it's extreme for the government to say, I'm going to put an experimental medication in your body because the government says so. That's pretty extreme to me. It's pretty extreme to say to pregnant women and to mothers with babies, 1 year old, saying, you need to give them this experimental medication because the government says so. Doesn't matter what you say about your body, doesn't matter what you say about your child. No, you have to do it because the government said so. I think that's pretty extreme. I think it's pretty extreme when the government says they're going to take away your rights and they're going to pay people in the government to do it, to take away your rights, even when you haven't committed a crime and there is no accusation of a crime and you don't get to court to prevent them from punishing you. You get punished first. You get accused, you get proven guilty, they punish you, and then you get to go to court to try and prove them wrong. I think that's pretty damn extreme. And they're paying people to do this to you, which means they have a financial incentive to find a problem, even if it didn't exist, to justify taking away your stuff. And you have to be able to afford to defend yourself and say, that's not true, which 80% of people hit with red flag actions cannot afford to do. Oh, there's a stat that I'm sure most people in the news media don't tell you. It's actually 84% of all people who are hit with red flag actions cannot afford the $20,000 it takes to fight the government to prove that you were always innocent and that you never committed a crime and that they shouldn't take your property. How much harder do you think it's going to be now that the government that took your stuff just got paid to take your stuff, which is what the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act does. $1.4 trillion of taking away your right. So that's pretty extreme. But you want me to think that Donald Trump and Americans who believe in America first, Americans who believe in America, they're somehow an extremist, that they're somehow bad guys because you don't like what they have to say. I'm sorry, your opinion doesn't make them a bad guy, even if you are in the White House. Let me continue. He goes on to say, now I want to be very clear, and he's getting applauded for saying these things. He wants to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not every majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. What is extreme? The ideology is make America great again. How is that extreme? What is extremist about making America the greatest nation it can be? The same thing that every nation is doing. If you go to Uganda today, if you're an Ugandan, you want Uganda to be the greatest country it can be. If you are in Sri Lanka, you want Sri Lanka to be the greatest country it can be. That's just common sense. Your house, you want your house and your life to be the best it can be. No one is saying, I want to have the worst life possible, that you want to live in a gutter. You don't. Some people wind up there, but it's not because that's what they went for. No one's striving to say, hey, I'm going to go through high school and I'm going to turn out and be a wino. I'm going to live in a gutter. I'm going to be hooked on heroin for the rest of my life and die in 5 years. No one does that. Everyone wants to be the best they can be. Every country wants to be the best they can be. Why is it extreme to say that? When did it become extreme to say that? You know when it became extreme? When Democrats thought that they would lose an election. That's why it's extreme. Let me get back to some of the comments here. Dow says, the Range Report, $81 billion in the best military equipment in the world was given to Afghanistan, but you and I can't have an AR-15. $54 billion went to the Ukraine, went and gave the Ukraine AR-15s, but you and I can't have it. But they can threaten to use M15s against the American people. Joe Biden can make that threat, but you can't have an AR-15 to defend yourself. The Range Report mentions that the Taliban now has the third largest fleet of Black Hawk helicopters in the world. That's what we got from Biden. That's what the Biden-Harris policies have given. The third largest fleet of Black Hawk helicopters in the world are now in the hands of 3 terrorist organizations, the Taliban, ISIS, and Al-Qaeda. Every one of those organizations want to kill every American, LGBTQ Americans, progressive Americans, Democrats, Republicans, libertarians. If you're American, they want to kill you. And they have the third largest fleet of Blackhawks in the world, but you don't deserve to have an AR-15 to defend yourself. Even though we have seen, and it has been reported in the major left-leaning news media, that terrorists have been infiltrating America trying to assassinate our leaders. But we're bad guys for telling people that. We're the bad guys for having that conversation. This is crazy. Little Dipper says, I would not be shocked if they start taking people's gold. I would not be surprised if a metal detector is used in your gardens. And I can't say that they won't. I can't say that. This is terrifying to me that Joe Biden has said this. And we have people, there are organizations right now that are trying to justify this. Okay? This is from NBC News. NBC is saying Biden's Soul of the Nation speech and the battle against MAGA, semi-fascism in America. Why is MAGA, Make America Great? See, they want to use the acronym because they don't want to say Make America Great Again. Because everyone wants their country to be great. And if they say that, you won't believe them when they say, well, that's a fascist. That's fascism. No, it's natural. If anything, it's selfish. It's selfish to say, I want my country to be great. Well, guess what? We're all selfish. We want our lives to be great. We want our country to be great. We want to live in comfort. That's selfish. Okay, that you could say it's selfish, but it's not fascist. It's not fascist. And NBC News, according to Jason Stanley, a professor at Yale University. What is that? An institution teaching critical race theory. An institution saying that the government is intrinsically racist. That you, as a black person, as a Hispanic person, as a person of color, as a woman, that you are inferior and the government must take care of you. That's what they teach at Yale University. That's what they're teaching their students. And this guy is coming on to NBC News. And as I have shown you, as we are going through the words, you are hearing that he is threatening you. Joe Biden has threatened you. Democrats have threatened you to obey or else. And Yale University is saying, nope, that's perfectly normal. It's a good thing. That's a good thing. I don't understand this. Let me show you something, folks. This is from September 1st of 1939. This is Germany. The then Chancellor of the Reich in Germany in 1939, speaking at the Reichstag. And I want you to understand what Joe Biden just did. I want you to understand the language that was used. I want you to understand the emotion that Joe Biden was putting out there. This is an excerpt of it. You can read the whole thing. Again, the links will be in the description. You can read it for yourself. In part, the Chancellor of Germany in 1939 said, I am resolved to remove from the German frontiers the element of uncertainty, the everlasting atmosphere of conditions resembling civil war. I will see to it that in the East there is, on the frontier, a peace precisely similar to that on our other frontiers. Okay, now I want to give you a slightly different version. I'm going to use what Joe Biden said, and listen to this carefully. I am resolved to remove from the American country the element of uncertainty, the everlasting atmosphere of conditions resembling civil war. Joe Biden will see to it that in America there is, at every border, a peace precisely similar to that as on all borders. That's Joe Biden. That's Joe Biden when he says too much of what is happening in our country today is not normal. MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that is threatening the very foundations of our republic. That being Republican embraces extreme ideology. Let me go and give you another section of this. I want to be very clear on this. In the final comments here, I want you to hear this. However, whoever, thinks he can oppose this national command, whether directly or indirectly, shall fail. We have nothing to do with traitors. We are all faithful to our old principle. It is quite unimportant whether we ourselves live, but it is essential that our people shall live, that America shall live. Let me stop there. Again, what did he say? Whether directly, whomever thinks they can oppose this national command, whether directly or indirectly, shall fail. This is from 1939. Joe Biden is known for plagiarism. And I just showed you the press secretary of the United States never answered the question, what is Joe Biden going to do to the 40% of Americans that do not obey? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. And it terrifies me. It's what was being said in Germany in 1939 is being said today by a diverse group of people in the Biden-Harris administration by a diverse group of people at Yale University, at NBC, at CNN. They are lying to you. They are manipulating you, and they are telling you obey or else. Let me ask you, folks. Do you think I'm wrong? I want someone to call in. 607-242-1582. If you agree with me or you disagree with me, tell me, what do you think? Hang on a second. So, like I said, will anyone call in to say whether they agree or disagree with what we have gone over about Biden's Reichstag speech in Philadelphia? Hello, and thank you for calling into the program. This is No Soundbites Allowed. I am your host, Michael Voss. And may I ask, what's your first name?
Hey, it's Mike. It's Dow.
Hey, Dal.
You ask, you shall receive. You got to call it.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Dal.
Yeah.
You've heard me lay it out. I've shown you the evidence that I have. I've tried to make it as clear as I can with all the references that I can. Tell me, am I out of my mind?
I won't say you're out of your mind. However, having said that, I think we can actually look to an even more recent example than even going back to 1939 Germany. This government is very heavily, this administration is very heavily influenced by what's happening in China and the practices of the CCP.
Yes.
If you want to see what would be coming to the United States and the way that it would be executed, you need to look at what the CCP has done in China to the Falun Gong and the Uyghurs.
Oh yeah, they're disappearing them.
Well, yeah, but they're disappearing them to open secret places so that they can make them an example to the other population. I mean, and some people will see that example and they'll applaud it because, oh, look at those dissidents, they're now gone and they're no longer going to bother us.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll finally have peace. And then other people are going to look at that and they're going to be like, well, crap, if I open my mouth, I'm just going to wind up in the cell next to them. So we don't even need to go back back in history for this, even though that is a very good lesson. I think in a way to do that actually detracts from the power of the message, because it was such an evil moment in history that it's been played over and over and over again. So people don't really know what to expect to come next, except maybe a world war.
Well,
if you want to see what's going to come next, you don't need a world war. You need to see what the CCP is doing.
Well, I agree, and I didn't want to use the entire Reichstag speech as an example because it is so overplayed. It is so commonly used. But on this channel, we don't use Germany 1940s as a example or a common toss around. It's uncommon for us, and it is. And
I know that.
But I think when I'm showing that section that I read off,
mm-hmm.
and when you interject, when you take out Germany and put in America and compare that to what Biden said, that fits, and that's terrifying, I think.
It is terrifying, but actually it's even more terrifying if you take a look at one of Xi Jinping's translated speeches from what is that there? The Chinese state-run media giant, whatever they are. If you look at one of his translated speeches, you'll actually find the language being used is extremely similar, almost as if Biden is reading off of Xi Jinping's scriptwriters and not his own. So
Wouldn't
I
surprise
mean,
me.
the most recent one was actually here in October when Xi Jinping was at there was in October there's going to be a conference, a party conference where they're going to be all together. They had a pre-party conference, and it sounds like he didn't walk away unscathed. Like there are murmurings that his bid to try and become the next Mao is not going to go so well.
Yeah, there's
Because
some
of
dissension.
political infighting. Yeah, because of political infighting. However, we have seen throughout history that when dictators are threatened internally, there's nothing stopping them from doing purges.
Mhm.
And China's communist government is fantastically equipped for purges, and I mean that not in a great way. I mean that it's kind of crazy how much money they spend on it.
Oh, bloody as hell. And North Korea learned from China how to do their purges. And God
Yeah.
knows North Korea does lots of purges.
Yeah. So I mean, if you want to answer the question about what comes next after such a speech, what you're looking at is trying to garner support amongst the most hardcore of the base in order to have them sign off on doing whatever it takes to silence the other half of the country. It's the othering, and in that way,
Mhm.
all dictators have learned from each other for that. So you're talking the Soviet Union, you're talking the Nazis in Germany, you're talking the CCP, you're
Yeah, I
talking
mean,
the
yeah.
Vietnamese, the Viet Cong, and all those.
Hmm?
They've all learned from each other what the steps are to get in and maintain power through dictatorial control. That has been done over and over and over again. It never has a good track record. It's not very. I think China's actually been the longest communistic government in history.
Not yet. Close.
Not yet?
Not close.
Close. Okay.
They're very close, but Russia started first. They had 75 years officially of overall communist rule. China
Right.
should be coming up on it, I believe, in about 5 years.
Still, that as far as a track record goes for the longevity of a dictatorial, authoritarian, totalitarian regime, which is a lot mouthful, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That track record is probably going to be the longest before any fall would ever even be conceivable. And even that, if there was going to be a fall of the CCP, it wouldn't come for another 20 years. Like it's that ingrained and inseparable from Chinese life that even the people that wish it wasn't don't dare even breathe that they wish it wasn't.
Yeah. But
Because it's bad.
But you know what gets me down?
Mm.
So I'm going. I've gone in detail, and I know we do long form commentary here.
Yeah.
I go into great depth, but I have done an analysis. I've just shown people step by step from the words that they have presented. I have shown with the press occurred what they have not said and the threat that has been made and how they have made that threat. None of the major media have, excuse me, excuse me. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm unaware of anyone in the major media that has done this. I don't know of any political commentator that has done this. They are not telling the American people nor explaining to them why this is a problem or how this is a problem. Besides also not telling them that the problem it's just begun. It hasn't even, it's been going on for a little while, but they're not even explaining to the American people that this is an ongoing issue. And according to the press secretary, this is a threat that's going to come again.
I don't think what a lot of people realize is that this ongoing issue is now going to be visual instead of just under the surface. Like if you and I, we're very observant people.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to delve into the realm and down the rabbit hole a lot more than others.
Yeah.
We look at all this stuff and we see this stuff and we see the trends and you start to sing out about it. You start to tell people about it. And they just kind of look at you like, What are you looking at? And so you show them, and they're like, well, I don't know if that would, because in anybody else's mind, when they're presented with evidence like this, unless it's of an immediate concern, you'd be worried about walking out the side of your house if half the stuff, even half the stuff that you predict to come would come. So,
yeah.
I mean, having presented all of this, it's a lot to take in, but it's not. Nobody in the mainstream right now, your question, to address your question,
Yeah.
nobody in the mainstream is talking about this right now because it is so blatantly obvious. It is blatantly obvious that this is a situation of othering, taking one group of a population, making it the scapegoat for the issue to try and distract from something else going on.
Yeah.
And that it's very, very blatant. So blatant, in fact, that they just want to leave it hang out there. They're not going to quantify it. They're not going to qualify it. They're just going to let it hang out there. Sort of like well, you don't want to be added to that list. So
It's a threat.
they'll keep it mysterious. The other thing I think is that some groups like Fox News will put out a whole bunch of stuff or whatever, but even independent commentators like yourself, Tim Pool, Louder with Crowder, these shows, Joe Rogan, they're addressing it, but they're not going into it the same depth, and speculating what's coming down the road. They're still sitting back and they're looking at it going, this is crazy. Where do we go with this? They don't even know where they want to go with this, because if they're wrong, then they're wrong.
I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. God help me. I don't want to be right, but I don't see how I'm not.
But we have to address even just the possibility that something like this is going to happen. Because if you don't mentally prepare yourself for such a possibility, when it finally happens to you, it will be such a crisis moment that one of the two things will happen. Either you break, and that's it. Life is over. You don't necessarily die, but there are things that are worse than death.
True.
Or you flip out, and then it really is over, and then you can't stop going until every crisis is neutralized. I'm trying to word that as best as I can. But,
I understand the difficulty in the wording, yes.
But it's those are your choices. Like you really can't. You don't want to seek out anything, but you really don't want it visiting you at your door either, because if it visits you right at your door, then you have to make a decision that you may not be able to walk away from. And it's not just you, it's your family. Because like the CCP, any government that wants to make sure that they can control the population doesn't just go after the individual that's causing the problem. They always go after the family. They go after the loved ones, the friends, the people that they really care about, the institutions that they really want. This is the issue. So with the bureaucracy in such a place of enforcement, to be able to pull, whatever they want, it is not unlikely that at some point, if you are labeled a dissident, that you are going to have a knock at your door, and then you will be relieved of your property, your children, your life, your livelihood, based on something that the Constitution explicitly forbids government to do. And yet, they've created a legal process, not a lawful one, but a legal one by which to do it. And that is the issue with red flag laws.
Yeah, and well, you've heard me talk about red flag laws for years. Yeah. And there's almost nothing about red flag laws. I've studied in every state, and especially New York State, but on the federal level and so forth. And it's amazing to me that it's the way everything is lining up, because this jigsaw pieces, and politics is a jigsaw, no doubt. And there's always moving parts all over the place. But we are seeing these pieces being put together right in front of us. When we're seeing the red flag laws are being pushed as a national issue, then we're being commoditized, and now we're seeing states like Illinois and New York are actually activating, or becoming active on that commoditization of denying people's rights at the same time that we have Joe Biden and the Democratic Party saying you don't have a right to firearms, even though you do, that you don't have the ability to beat the government if you ever dared to do so, and then they're threatening the American people as well.
Right.
Those are two, just taking those two factors alone, people should be terrified, right? I'm going, wait a minute, something's going on. This is what you do before you have a coup.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's,
Yeah,
I
and
think that's
then-
part of the reason why because that is a logical conclusion of the actions that we are seeing. And there's an election 67 days from now. They
Yeah.
don't want anyone thinking about that, which is why
No.
we're not hearing about it.
Right. And the other thing to think about too is that because they don't want anybody to think about, they really don't want you to think about what comes afterwards. And I really believe that after the elections are over, we're going to see the results. And people will have such questions, whether anything when anything untoward happens or not. They're going to have such questions after the results are announced. Nobody will be trusting the system at all, that the time is perfect to produce an event that gives somebody the justification to say, you know what? It's time. It's time that the populace comes together forcefully and we follow this one policy because, one policy always seems to work best when we're in charge.
Well, John Ristusha, J. Rest Brake,
Yeah.
and John Cordisco both mentioned that same idea, that there could be a incident that happened somewhere in the very near future that will capitalize on this feeling. Now you're mentioning it after the election. They were mentioning it before or at the election. I can see logic in before because that would change votes. I can see afterwards as a reaction to the votes.
Yeah.
But I think that after is, while I don't think that the progressives have thought this through yet. I think they're opportunists. But I think after the fact, yes, that this would be, we are being geared and ginned up to accept that there is going to be othering and those people are going to be punished. And most likely that punishment's going to come under the title of red flag laws to protect people from the violence that's going on. And it's just for your safety. I can see that happening after November.
Well, see, and here's, you just gave a good reason as to why I think it's going to happen afterwards. And it's because afterwards, you won't just have one side ginned up. You'll have both sides ginned up. Because even if the red wave happens and the MAGA populists take over the Senate and the House, right? Or just the House, whichever, however it works out. Even with that, you're still going to have rhino moderate Republicans that are unhappy with the choice. You're going to have multiple groups, leftists, right? It doesn't matter. There's going to be multiple groups that are going to be unhappy with the result.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that it pits everybody together. And out of the chaos, here comes law and order in the name of Joe Biden. Or Kamala Harris, because I'm pretty sure that after the elections, he's going to send them to the old folks' home.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely going to happen.
So, I mean, it's going to be, look at your woman president. I mean, look what they did with Hochul. Hochul's woman governor? Is she the first woman governor? I have no idea.
Yes, she is.
Okay, so.
Appointed, but yes.
Yeah, well, so will the president. Anyway, she'll be like, look at me. I'm the first woman of color, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
Under me, you will have 1,000-year reign of peace and prosperity as long as you do as I say. Don't listen to that last part.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Forget
it's
about
gonna-
that last part. But
Yeah, it's going to be 1,000 years of peace and prosperity as long as you do as I tell you to. And that moment when everybody's like ready to slash each other's throats and throttle each other in Serbian hellos, they're going to stop, and for a moment, and that moment is when the government will try their biggest theatrical production ever, and they will mobilize everything, and we'll see where it goes from there.
okay. Now, before you go any further, Dal, I have to say, because YouTube censors would love to make sure that we are not encouraging anyone to violence. We are not promoting violence. We are not suggesting violence. We are contemplating the consequences of current legislation and politics and where those trends could go. We denounce violence at all times from any group, anywhere. Just have to say that because,
Yeah. No, and that's, you want to find the most peaceful option, obviously. You do not want to have any sort of violent reaction happen because of something like this. We're all adults. We should be able to sit down around a table and then, go back and forth with ideas and actually have the marketplace of ideas function like it's supposed to, filter out the bad ones, promote the good ones, and get the country working.
Yeah. Well, that's how engineers, when they build stuff, they make designs, they have conversations, they have meetings, and they go, okay, will this design work? Well, no, actually, this has a flaw, so let's not build that one. You don't know until you actually start having a conversation.
Right. So, I mean, that's why when you see all the censorship and you see the policies that are coming out that mostly have everything to do with control, that's why there are those that speculate that we're going to find ourselves in dire straits, in the next couple of years, because there's incompetence, there's mismanagement, there's maliciousness, because there is malicious intent. You can't say that there isn't because it was captured in Philadelphia. There's malicious intent.
Oh yeah.
Whether it comes from the office of the president or not, definitely there are those who are applauding the speech that have malicious intent and want to see somebody punished. And they don't care who it is, as long as it's not them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand, is that it's going to come for everyone eventually.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what happens when these things, you watch it with cancel culture on a daily basis. These people that get on cancel culture, Twitter, for example, you get people on Twitter that'll sit there and they'll find this issue of the day and they'll dogpile like crazy on Twitter, and they'll try to cancel this person. Well, eventually, those people just either leave or they stay silent. So now they're looking around and they're like, well, what's the issue of the day? We've run out of issues. Oh, wait a minute, this person committed a microaggression. Get them! And then they go after them.
Yeah.
And then they go after the other person. And then next thing you know, the person that was instigating the whole thing ends up being canceled. So it's like a Ouroboros. It eats its own tail all the way down to the bottom.
Absolutely. Happens over and over again.
And in some ways, you just want to, as a not an opponent, what would be a good word for that? As someone who doesn't prescribe to that type of culture, it's kind of interesting to just take a step back and watch them do it. You never step into when your enemy's fighting each other.
Right.
You just let them go and do their thing. But the problem is that in the course of them consuming each other, there's going to be a huge amount of collateral damage. So unless you take steps to make your own plan to insulate yourself from what's coming, you're not going to you're going to get caught up in the collateral damage. So that means going out, making sure that you have skills that you can use to either bargain or help people with. It means having an active, being active in your local community, in your culture, in your politics, to make sure that the people that are representing you on a local level will have your back in case something happens at a state or federal level. These are things that you have to start doing now, because we've been talking about it for almost 2 years now. Should have been doing it 2 years ago, but really have to do it now because as it gets closer to elections, it's going to get hairy.
No,
Very hairy.
I think it's going to get the problem and threats we're seeing now, I believe, are going to only get worse as we get closer to 2024. Especially since, if I am correct, and I've said this for a long time now, since 2020, I've been saying Joe Biden isn't going to make it. In January 2023, Kamala Harris is going to take over. We're going to use the 25th Amendment against him. And he's going to be out. She's going to be in. A woman of color. Ooh, it's history making, glass ceiling broken. You have to re-elect her because of history and glass ceiling. Okay.
Right.
And that's going to be their message. And that message is going to be on top of stay the course. Kind of like they said with Obama, stay the course. And I think when we see this complete rejection as it stands right now, if people actually show up, it looks like a complete, overwhelming rejection of all the progressive ideology.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to turn around and go, you can't be against us. It's a black woman. And that means you're sexist and racist.
Right,
You can't oppose this. You have to vote for her. You have to accept what she's saying. You have to do this. And if you continue to argue, then the government is going to punish you. That's what I see happening January 2023 all the way into 2024.
Given the trends, yeah, that would be a very plausible next step.
That's
Certainly.
terrifying.
I think the other worry that you have to have too is to make sure that whatever the populists do, like the actual MAGA populists do, they don't lose focus in things like the memes. One of the things I've been seeing a lot of is like a lot of people are taking the backdrop to Biden's speech. They're like putting it out there, and they're making some really good memes. There's some real snappy bangers out there.
Yeah.
But a meme is a tool. It's not the end. It is a visual protest that's meant to shake somebody out of cognizance and dissonance and get them to act. If you take a picture like that and you impose it over an idea and you think that's the end, you're wrong.
Well,
Go ahead.
And
I was going to say, I think that is what's happening right now, because that is a very strong image. That is a very has a lot of associations, especially considering the link that a lot of people have made between 1939 and now. So it's like, oh, this is so blatantly obvious in this meme that people have to be waking up by now. You can't stop talking about it. You have to keep talking about it, because if you don't, that imagery, though as strong as it is, will give somebody pause. It's just enough to make them pause, maybe shake them a little bit out of their cognizant dissonance. But if you don't follow it up with something else, they're going to go right back to sleep.
Exactly. It's just a momentary shock to the system. And I've been seeing pictures of like Emperor Palpatine in there, and yeah, that's a cute meme. But then what? Yes, you saw this. Now what are you going to do? Which is exactly what Biden said. Don't think about. That's what this press secretary said. Don't think about this. Don't think about what's next. Let it go. Go on to the next thing. I'll give you a great example. I have it on the screen right now. I don't know if this is considered a meme. In my day, it's not. It's just a message. It's a photo. I'm showing. It's like what we saw with the economy right now.
Yeah.
New York Times, U.S. job growth slows. CNN, pace of hiring slowed in August, but the job market is still strong. Who else do we have? Bloomberg, U.S. employment record report, August 2022, 315,000 jobs added, wages rise. Every single one of them are missing. The unemployment rate went to 3.7%. That is a 0.2 increase. It is more people out of work. which means
Yeah.
we are in a recession. It is confirmation of the recession. It is confirmation that this is a failed economy. Now, they would see this as a meme, but this is part of both this commentary. I've done another video on it explaining this, and I'll talk about this more. I've been talking about the recession for a while. But you can't just look at the image and go, wow. You have to go, yes, they're lying to you, actively lying. Just like what we're seeing with what's going on with Jean-Pierre. As she actively, I can't make it any more clear. The question was asked and she never answered it. And the question is critical. What are you going to do about the people who say, I won't obey?
Well, the funny thing about those economic numbers that they have is the fact that they fluctuate depending on who you're counting. Like that was the big thing about the jobs, like the unemployment going down. When unemployment goes down, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are going back to work. It means that the measurement that they're using to count the unemployment does not include a vast majority of those that are not working.
Oh, wait a minute. You're talking about the not in the labor force. That actually reduced. So when we see that the unemployment rate this month went up 3.7%, that is including a reduction in the not in the labor force, which means people that they weren't counting before, who weren't getting checks from unemployment, actually tried to get a job and they can't.
Oh, they actually counted those people this time?
They counted some of them this time. That's why it went up 0.2. It went up 0.2 because they actually tried to get a job and they can't.
Yeah, there's a group out there, FEE. That's the Forum for Economic something or other.
Mm-hmm.
Seamus, who also does Freedom Tunes, does one of those things. He does the cartoons, the political cartoons, and he actually did one on how they count employment and unemployment. And that was a very good analogy to quicksand. It's like, oh no, look at all those people in the quicksand, and then some of them go under the surface, and you're like, oh look, there's not so many in the quicksand. That means it's okay. Like, no, that you just watched a bunch of people sink. Yeah. They're gone now, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Hang on. And I don't want to go too much in the weeds because I know once I start talking numbers, most people lose their minds. But I just see something. 01 First. This is someone who just first time you're on this channel and you left a comment. You said Trump prison 2024. Please explain yourself. I don't know what that means. It seems like something that a bot would send in. Please tell me what you're talking about. If you think that President Trump has committed a crime, I'd love to hear you explain what you think it is, because none exists so far. And none seems to exist going forward. And that doesn't have anything to do with Joe Biden abusing this nation, the power of the government, and becoming more and more dictatorial. Well, we're getting hit with bots. I'm getting hit with bots. I think I'm getting hit with bots now. We got Makeup and Yoga 2020.
I think the biggest thing, like the fact that you're getting hit with bots now is kind of funny. Because if it was an actual person and they were saying this, one of the things that they would probably follow up with is, well, he was taking illegal documents and now they've got the proof. But it's like,
yeah, it's a bot. It's a bot. They can't get out more than one sentence, can't prove anything that they're saying. See, here's the thing, folks. And Dow, tell me if anything I'm saying, you've been watching this channel for years. I cannot stand people who go in with like one sentence, they're quoting something from CNN, they go, you're evil, or you're soulless, or he's a criminal. Won't back it up with any evidence, won't have a conversation. They're just trying to put that in there to try and either disrupt the flow or be a bot or to try and be a troll. Because they think, oh, see, look, we've got attention now. People saw what we said. No, it's not impressive. And
here's something.
And if I'm wrong, and Makeup and Yoga 2020, I've never seen your name before. If you're a subscriber, thank you. But I prefer, and I was talking about 01 first. 01 first is coming off with a bot response, the Trump Prison 2024. Like he just did right now, criminal 45. That means nothing. 2 sentences may be too much for you. Oh, see, oh my God, he's so witty because he has nothing.
Here's something for people that do that. If you're going to have a discussion, have a discussion. But what you got to understand is that it's not about Trump. You guys focus on Trump. These people that have the detraction against making America great again, America first. This is not a new idea that was just put forward by Trump. This is an idea that we were raised with. My grandfather fought in Normandy for making America great. That was his purpose. He didn't go in because some fat cat in Washington wanted their paycheck from the loan money that they gave the Allies. He went in because he was, one, drafted by the Army because they needed bodies to go there. 2, he actually went there because he believed that the reason his father went to that country is because he needed to get out of where he was so he wouldn't be persecuted. That's what America is. It is supposed to be the beacon, the beacon on the hill, as Reagan called it, the place where people can look to see that freedom works.
The beachhead
that America
of freedom.
America is the greatest country on the world, not because of some misplaced jingoism, but because you as an individual have the voice and have the rights, not because the Constitution gives them to you, but because the Constitution protects the ones that you already have. To exercise autonomy in all its shape and form, so long as you do not violate the rights of another person. And the government is there to make sure that that doesn't happen. That's its purpose.
That's its purpose.
The fact that the government has abandoned its purpose means that if the population really wanted to see change, then they would deny the government the consent to be governed.
That's it.
Which means mass civil disobedience. Doesn't mean fighting. It just means exactly what Hochul said. It's exactly what AOC said. What are they asking for? They're not asking for violence. What are they asking for? Not to listen.
That's it.
Not to obey.
Yeah, that's it. But
that's civil disobedience.
And that's all. It can be as simple as that. Hang on, Jeff. Let me do this because we've had you on for a little while. I want to ask. No problem. And I don't want to. We've been on for a little while, but I want to give 01 first a chance to call in to have a conversation, not an attack, not a screaming match. They want to make a point. Fine. Let's have that conversation. Is that fair, Dal?
That's fair. Yeah, let them call in.
Yeah.
If they're actual people and they want to have a discussion, let them discuss. But I think what they're doing is they're focusing too much on how much they hate the man and not focusing enough on why the idea is so distasteful to a particular party in Washington.
They don't get that, like everything we're talking about, it's not about Biden. It's about Biden's policies.
Right.
It's not about Nancy Pelosi or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's about their policies.
Yeah, I don't care about them as people. They do them. The problem is that the policies that they're enacting out in Washington are directly affecting my ability to live my life.
Exactly. And see, but let's give this 01 first a chance to call in.
Yep.
To convince the rest of us if their evidence and their belief is clear and they have that evidence, they have that reasoning, convince the rest of us. I'm more than happy to give them that chance. Sound fair?
Yep. Sounds fair.
Okay.
Talk to you later, Mike.
You got it.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See, and I want to be clear here, 01 first, that's what this channel is about. You don't have to agree with me. No one is requiring you to agree. This channel is about free speech. This is about having a conversation. If you disagree, then please, you can have that conversation. No, you're using one word, the FBI. What about the FBI? Are you saying the FBI can't be corrupt? We've seen there have been many trials showing they are corrupt. We just had a guy in the FBI get kicked out of the FBI just a couple of days ago because he had a bias in there. So again, FBI, I do speak to the federal government on a regular basis, actually, because I do FOIAs. So your statement, FBI, means nothing. It means no. FBI is not law. They're an agency of law enforcement. That doesn't mean they're infallible. It doesn't mean that they've never had anyone abuse the powers of the FBI. You're not making an argument. You're putting out a statement. The FBI is a law enforcement agency. Yes, they are. And the police are a law enforcement agency. But if I listen to Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, BLM, Antifa, they tell me that police are bad guys. So your answer, and they also tell me that the FBI are bad guys. See, I know user has been banned. I know that O1 is a troll. They don't have an argument. But I want to point this out for everyone because I want people to see this. Give me a reason, not a soundbite, not a clip from CNN. Give me your reason. Yes, they should stay out of Melania's closet. And it was an illegal, I believe, based on the nature of the warrant, it was an illegal search, which means none of it's valid. And see, I don't think O1 is a real person either, which is why they get one sentence out, which is about 3, 4, 5 words. They don't have a meaning, a thought behind it. And see, this is what people don't need to be afraid of. We mean, no, I'm hiding in the sand. Here's the fun part, folks. Here it is. You see my face. You hear my voice. I've been doing this for 15 years. But the answer is, oh, but you're hiding. You're hiding in the sand. Yeah, I'm hiding in the sand every week with my face on international social media. I love that. Oh, now I'm not a patriot. I love that. You've made that decision in all of 5 minutes. That's fantastic. You know what? I have over 1,000 hours of videos. I have over 2 million words I've written in over 2,000 articles. I think you might need to reach a little harder than that. But here's the fair thing. Again, O1, if you have proof of that, call me. Tell me what your proof is. See, folks, this is the thing. They want you to buckle. The bots, the trolls, these individuals that have nothing to say, they have nothing to provide to you. They want to fearmonger you. They want to bully tactic you. They think that you're going to back down because they're like, oh, see, I just called you a racist. I just called you unpatriotic. You're going to back down now, right? No, I'm not. I've been doing it 15 years. Try harder. Try something with a little substance. Doesn't mean a thing. See, they want you. Yeah, I know. You're right, Agent Black. And by the way, Agent Black, great to see you from the UK. Glad you're here. You may want to see something I was saying earlier about Liz Truss. But I love it. MAGA is crime equals crime. Make America great again is a crime, according to the troll 01. There you go. It's a crime to make your country great, to be America first, to have a positive and a focus on your nation. That is a crime. So if you're in the United Kingdom, if you're in Canada, if you're in Australia, if you're in Peru, India, Switzerland, and you have a focus on your nation, that's a crime. That makes no sense. See, folks, there's the thing. When these trolls, when these individuals who are trying to disrupt and to distract you, when they start coming in and attacking, it's because someone noticed that you're making sense. When you've made a good argument and you've backed it up with data, and they're saying, I don't have anything to say. They can't compete. So all they have to do is say, well, you're just evil. You're a bad guy. Feelings, 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 feelings. You know what? Feelings are great if you're watching a movie. You're there with your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the hell. I don't care. You're with them. Feelings are fantastic. This is politics. This is policy. This is determining the money people make, the quality of life they get to live, the amount of peace in the world. Feelings are meaningless. Let's be honest. And when we are being threatened by a guy sitting in the White House, as I have documented and shown everyone, I don't care if you don't like that. It's a fact. The evidence is before you. When the government is trying to hide this, you know what? As I have shown you in the words of Press Secretary Jean-Pierre herself, as reported by CBS News, then you know what? Don't care if you don't like it. It is what it is, because the truth is not subjective. The truth is a fact. But you know, it's fantastic. By the way, 01, please type in more messages. Please keep watching. You're helping my algorithm. Thank you. Thank you for being part of my audience. Thank you for helping my algorithm and increasing our numbers and making sure we reach more and more people. See, I'm not upset when the trolls come in. The trolls help us to reach more people. So thank you. Thank you for doing that for me. The trolls always forget that part, that they're actually promoting us to help us reach more and more people by actually trying to attack us with their nonsense. But let's focus back now. Now that we've explained what these trolls are doing, let's actually think about the reality here. We have an economy that is failing. The reason why Biden did all this is because the economy is failing, has been a failure. And all of his policies have failed. He has nothing left. And he needs something. And he knows that starting tomorrow, September 5th, we are going to start seeing ad after ad after ad quoting Joe Biden, pointing out law and executive order and spending bill after spending bill the Democrats have put forward in the last 18 months that have completely failed. You're not safer. You're not richer. You're not more respected in the world. These things happen over and over again. That's a fact. We know. We know that crime is up approximately 27% across the country in 2022. It went up and it went up again and it's up now. And everything he's promised you about being safe doesn't work. And now his answer is going forward. Don't worry. If you ask questions, they're going to get Mark Zuckerberg to respond to the FBI to silence people, just like they did with Hunter Biden's laptop, or the fact that Hunter Biden illegally had possession of a gun. Can't talk about those things. They want to suppress that because you might change your vote. They're going to try and suppress all of the negatives. They don't want you to think about the fact that Eric Adams is going to have the police go door to door, knocking on your neighbors and knocking on doors to take away your Second Amendment right. They don't want you to think about that because those are Gestapo tactics. Those are tactics that you see in Venezuela. They don't want you to think about that. They want you to just think, hey, free stuff, college debt. They want you to think, well, if they erased the debt of the college students, which they didn't, they just moved it on to you, then maybe the next person is going to be people who have mortgages, or maybe people who have rent, or maybe it's people who, I don't know, whatever category is next. Free stuff. Are you next on that free stuff train? Because they're trying to buy your votes. Kind of like in Pennsylvania and in Alaska and in California, where they are giving out inflation checks. This is a stupid idea. Matter of fact, Germany's about to do it as well. Germany's about to do the same thing. They're giving out checks to the public to pay for inflation. One of the key reasons that inflation is up is because they keep printing money they don't have. That's how stupid this is. They're so busy trying to give you free stuff that they are increasing the inflation. It's amazing. Let me get back to some of the comments here, actual comments. Mike Boyer mentions that the fentanyl epidemic is not being reported coming across the southern border or the northern border. You're right. And that's yet another failure. Remember, that's Kamala Harris, who is supposed to be on this since March of 2021. She was supposed to be taking care of our southern border, making sure that it's going to be safe. Meanwhile, fentanyl is coming in record numbers, and we have record overdoses. Yet another failure. Agent Black mentions that he had an energy bill yesterday. It doubled since last month on the same usage. Agent Black, I'm sorry to tell you this. It's about to go higher. In Germany, Russia just shut down all the pipeline, Nord Stream 1. Germany has no gas coming from Russia, and it's unclear when they may start back up, if they start back up, if they give them any gas or even the amount of gas, which means gas prices around the world are climbing, which means energy prices are going to increase for the average person. So even though in the United Kingdom, your prices have jumped up, they're about to jump up again because of the EU, because of Germany, because there is no more gas going to Germany at this point, and they have to get it from somewhere. And as it goes up for the United Kingdom, it's going up for the United States as well. It's simple, basic math, folks, and no one else wants to tell you this. They want to hide it from you because it might change your vote. And Liz Truss is not going to fix this. I know Liz Truss has said she's going to cut back and she's going to put more of your money back in your pocket in the United Kingdom if she gets elected as prime minister. That's not fixing the problem. Liz Truss has promised in the United Kingdom, and Agent Black, you know this. She's saying that, well, if she gets to be prime minister, she's going to cut some of the taxes that you're paying for your electricity and your heating in the United Kingdom. But that doesn't stop the fact that Germany and the European Union still can't get gas from Russia, and they have to buy it from somewhere in the world, and the price is going to go higher. So it's again, hello, Miss K, by the way, it's good to see you. So again, it's basic math. Even as we are watching this happen with our greatest ally, they're doing the same thing that's happening here in the United States. Don't think about it. Oh, she said she's going to cut my electric bill. That's what Liz Truss said. Fantastic. I want her because free money. Except the root problem isn't the tax. It's where is the gas and the oil? The United States isn't making it. We're competing with the United Kingdom, with the European Union, with Germany, driving the price up higher. This is the problem when we see things. Yes, Ms. K, I see you. And this is the problem when we hear them say, we're going to cancel federal taxes. We're going to cancel state taxes on gas. And you get back a quarter. You get back 50 cents or a dime. The problem isn't the taxes. The problem is we don't have oil. We're not an independent energy country. And the Biden-Harris administration has no plan to make us an independent energy country. So they're going to give you back a couple of pennies, but the price is jumping up a couple dollars. You don't win. It's that simple. And we just need to call them out for this. It's incredible. It is incredible. Yes, we have 12 viewers, 07. 01. And guess what? That's just on one channel. That's on Facebook. We have a couple of different sources for this. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with, I don't care if we have one person I'm talking to or we're talking to 12,000. I'm going to say the same things no matter what. Never be embarrassed, folks. Don't let the trolls try and embarrass you going, oh, see, you're the only person with that voice. No, you're not. I've said this many times. I haven't said this in a while. I do want to say it again as we get closer to the election. You are not alone. We hear a lot of progressives that want you to think you're the only person that thinks like this. You're the only conservative, especially kids in college. They want you to think you're the only one. Everyone else has this other idea. You're wrong. You know what? Just because a bunch of other people are lemmings, just because people aren't thinking about the problems, doesn't mean you're wrong when you do think about it and you come up to a logical conclusion based on the facts. Never let that bully tactic scare you. It's a scare tactic. You're outnumbered. Don't believe it. Just most people don't speak up. So this is really interesting, and I want people to think about this thing. It's important. We are not alone. We are not. We're not terrorists. We're not, you know this. We're Americans. We love this nation. And you know what that means? We want to make it great. And I want you to know, I'm ultra MAGA. I love America. I want America to be the greatest nation in the world, which means I want an America first policy. I want to focus on the domestic and international issues of America first. I want to bring the thousands of Americans in Afghanistan home, safe and alive. I want to get the 10 to 20,000 Americans in Ukraine home, alive. I want to bring the 200 Americans in China home, alive. Brittany Griner, she can stay. She's a criminal. She can stay in prison in Russia. I don't care. She committed a crime. She admitted it. She's got to pay. She's going to do her time. But innocent Americans that were just abandoned by the government? No, I want to bring them back home. That's the point of the government, to make them safe. Yes, that is America first. You tell me that trying to bring Americans who have been stranded around the world through no fault of their own, you say that's evil? That's a terrorist? No, I call that America first. I call that being a member of the United States Marine Corps. I say that's the purpose of government. I think most of us will agree. I know, Agent Black, you know, I think everyone, you're in the United Kingdom. I know. And you know what? I have no problem if you told me, and I'm sure you will, that you believe in the United Kingdom first, and that you want to focus on the issues of the United Kingdom as a priority. And that's the way it's supposed to be. It's just, I just can't get past how dumb that is, that Biden thinks that this is crazy. I don't understand how Democrats and progressives are saying that's a bad idea. How? If you stop and think about it, I can't understand it. But, you know, that's just the thing. He's about 7 hours ahead of us, Mike. So, Agent Black, if I remember correctly, in Wales, you're 7 hours ahead. Heart rings? Are you talking about the movie Dune? I must have missed a comment in there. $23.30. Yeah. So about a little less than 7 hours. What are we? It is currently. I can't do the math right now. Captain Planet. You guys are funny. Okay. Some of the comments are really funny. I do try and read back. So we've talked about a lot of things here today. one thing to take away from this. One, protect your Second Amendment right. You have a right to own a handgun, a rifle, a machine gun, a cannon, a tank, an F-15. You have that right. You have always had that right. That right was yours at your birth, and it will remain yours because you're an American citizen. That's what the Constitution says. And that has always been the case as long as the Constitution has existed. So protect your Second Amendment rights. Don't let the government just walk in and say, red flag, I'm taking your property, I'm taking your rights, especially when they're getting paid to do it. So they have an incentive for that. We need to go to each and every state, talk to every one of your state assembly members, every one of your state senators, and say, do not do this. We do not want a red flag law. We do not want you to use the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act to put a $sign on all of our heads and all of our rights. That's evil. That is an overreach of government. That's a dictatorship. And please make sure you do that and vote. And again, throughout this entire show, you have not heard me say, vote for X, Y, or Z. I think I kind of said that with my friend Larry Sharp, which I told you, he's my friend. But I want you to vote for whatever you believe in. But do not fall for these lies that are being said, these little half-truths, these half-answers, this little deception that is being done. Don't be fooled by that. If you want to be a Democrat, fantastic. Have a reason. You want to vote progressive? Fantastic. Have a reason. Not just a slogan, not a 30-second ad, not some bullet point from CNN. Have an actual reason and know the candidates you're voting for and know why you're doing it. Because the consequences, you're going to feel them, no matter what. And we've only ever told you to do that. That's right. Jan is right. Contact your attorney generals. They're the same ones who have to fight the state Congress on their draconian laws. We need to do this. You want to no, I want the Warthog. I want the A10 Warthog. That and probably an Abrams tank. And probably just what is it? 50 cal sniper. That's a good one. But that's me. But folks, I want you to hold on a second because I want to do one other thing here. And please bear with me for one moment. I know the A10, I've seen them up close and personal. They're fantastic. Oh, great. But hang on one second. And I know you've heard it before. What difference does it? You make the difference when you watch, chat, tweets, your likes and shares, and your subscription. You make the difference. From across the world, you help us to keep the lights on and the stream alive. You are making the difference to fight the woke and the crazy legislation that we see before. We at No Soundbites Allowed. And I want to thank you for everything that you do in helping us reach our goal and your likes, your tweets, your comments, and your subscriptions to the channel. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. And this is a special thank you to those who have donated to the channel and helped us in all of our efforts. Strive to make this channel the best that we possibly can because you deserve no less. Thank you. All right, folks. So, yes, I'm finishing up here. As you may have noticed, we want to thank many of our supporters. We thank everyone who watches this program from everywhere in the world. We look forward to hearing your comments. Even if you weren't able to make a comment live, we look for the comments after the show as well. We always try and answer as many comments as we can. We do ask you, please, if you can, like, share, subscribe. It makes the biggest difference. It helps so much. We're so close. We're like 90 people away from reaching 1,000. It's a huge hurdle. We hope you'll help us be able to get there. Every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will always do this live stream unless we're being punished by YouTube and the social media giants. We're going to be here. We come in every week. We do that for you. You're going to see throughout the week the J-Rest Break 1-minute shorts that come from John Rastusha. Please love those too. He has a lot of interesting views. John does this on his own. He has his own direction, his own way of doing that, which I appreciate. It always brings an interesting point of view on some of the other issues that we don't get to talk about on the show. The sources should be up right now. So please let me know if you don't see that. But I want you to take a look and make your own decisions. It is great to see every one of you guys. So I want you to be well. I'll talk to you soon. And I'll see you in a week.